Karma, Songhai, they're 21% of the population, essentially fisher folk and largely farmers. Then there's a small group, the Tuareg, the Tabu people. They are a minority and they're nomadic. Okay? So there's desert.
Yes, we move a lot.
You can nomad there a great deal.
You can nomad there.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
Songhai, so the Songhai kingdom of those days actually passed through Niger and parts of northern Nigeria. Usman Danfodio on the other side. And all the works that he did in terms of, pushing for trade, governance. And you talked about architecture.
Yes.
The northern part of Nigeria and then also into, southwest part of Niger. The architecture of some of those buildings is still there, and it was intricate stuff. Really, really beautiful to experience.
What people don't know is that some of these empires, they're talking about the Mali Empire, the Songhai Empire, many of them even made forays into Europe. And yes, if you go to some of these European countries that border the Mediterranean, you will find remnants of the civilization that these particular kingdoms left there.
Civilization, that's the word I was looking for.
Yes, then came the Moors. Now, these are the North Africans. And they contributed significantly. It's just that when somebody controls the narrative, they also control the narrative of the history. So you don't quite get to hear the conversation of what these African empires and nations actually contributed. But the thing that I have observed, anecdotally of course, that one thing that the Europeans were good at was taking, adopting, owning, and obliterating the source.
Exactly.
Yes.
Making it seem as though they were the source.
Yeah, the source is completely removed. I use the word obliteration because it tells you it was finished completely. There were no half measures. But shall we then go to the proverb?
Let's do it.
Okay. This community love goats.
Oh, that's not the proverb. Okay.
Yes, because...
Oh, yeah. I thought we got that.
Yes. But there's a goat proverb that I'm going to end with,
okay?
No matter how good you are to a goat, it will still eat your yam.
It is very true. If you feed it cassava roots, feed it cassava leaves,
it will still
eat your yam.
Will it steal it or will it eat it?
Eat it.
Eat it.
So it will find, so you've given it yam.
Yes.
You've given the leaves. So it knows what it tastes like. And it also has eyes. So it knows what it looks like.
Yes.
So you think it is full. Ha! The yam that you left there to dry and to do whatever it is yam does in the open.
Eat it.
Goat, eat. Wondering this goat. Did I don't just give it food? Just give it money. Why is it behaving like a goat?
It's relatable to human.
Isn't it just?
Absolutely.
No matter how good you are to a goat, it will still eat your yam.
It will still eat your yam.
Right. This one should be interesting. I guess I'd like to see how our guests interpret this particular one.
Very interesting.
Sure. Okay. Good morning, guys. Let me say a quick hello to you, if we can. Excuse me. If we can find you this morning, shall we? Ednah, say something to me. Can we do it or no? I think we're trying to just sort out an issue on live streams this morning. It's okay now? Okay, fantastic. Okay, here we go. Good morning, everybody. Starting off and just saying hi to you. We can see you, Don Sabo. I've already logged in this morning. Karibu Sana. And there it is. Okay. Also, a good morning to you, Anki. He says, Mimi na wewe.
Nani?
R.
Mimi na wewe. Sounds like Mimi na wewe. Na wewe. Pakache.
Okay. I don't know, but yeah.
It's just a song.
Okay, sawa. Moses Nyabura is tuned in this morning and says, good morning, Team Kubwa, tuned in from Westlands and ready for the day. Chef Muthoka says, good morning. This Friday, it feels good to be in the Situation Room. We're very glad that you are with us today and clicking in. Robinson Kisero says, from Hong Kong, why would there be no extra 15 billion shillings in the office of the president?
Read it again, please.
Let me try again. Why would there be an extra 15 billion shillings in the office of the president, DP, and prime CS officers at a time when intern doctors threaten to strike? No capitation money. This is a shame, or a sham, or a shame.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question here. And we're looking at intern doctors looking at 206,000 shillings down to 70,000 from July this year. And doctors are saying we're having none of it because it's actually not fair. It's a conversation that we will carry later on. Also, good morning to you. Nicole says, rather good evening. Okay, yeah, good evening, depending on where you are. Oh, you're in New York, so it's a good evening to you. A good morning on this side of the pond. Expand your horizons, that's your name. You said good morning, fantastic. We can now hear you loud and clear. Yeah, Ednah did the magic. She's got to won that one. Pharmacy also says good morning. Tupe Choma, yeah, Juma.
Chorus. And I think City would remember this City. And I know it's very interesting. I think this guy is someone who used to listen way back. That song that I sang one day here.
Sure.
And I don't remember the words you made fun of. I felt like you made fun of it. Were you
in the room when you heard it? Were you here? I don't know.
I'm being enjoined to a song that
he was there. It's gonna come.
That's why I asked you. That's why I asked you when she said that you heard.
I know.
Were you here?
No. Remember that part? You're like no.
That particular
Remember?
bit I remembered. As you listen or no, Cindy.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's what he's referring to.
Okay, so
you were in Nigeria. You're a child of a king. I understand. You come from a lineage of monarchy. And that day, you went over to Nigeria for a coronation. I believe
that song.
You were not here.
Very, very well.
Okay.
Yes.
You remember?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a love song of sorts, isn't it?
Of course, it's a love song. What do you mean?
That's what I mean. It's a love song of sorts.
Of sorts.
Yes.
Okay.
In the plural, sorts.
Okay. You know this is done with, but yeah, that's what he was saying. Mindu and City.
What did I do?
No. What
did you do?
I am actually expressing my understanding of the song. If I have erred in my understanding, I stand corrected. Please correct me. What have I not understood properly? So it's a love song.
Of course, it's a love song.
Because I heard you crooning. Nakupenda sijui utanipa no. So that's what you're saying.
Do you know?
Not even singing.
Yeah.
Let's move forward.
Please, let's greet people because City for me, man.
But it's okay.
Okay, so
it was from the comment section.
Okay, Willie Kitala says good morning, tuned in from Mombasa with love, tuned in from Addis, the weather is chilly here, says Luke Masharia. Lamek Etene says good morning, Team Spice, another day to remind ourselves that we are on our own. Wololo. Wow. Linus Gitonga, yes, good to have you here this morning. Think deeply. Good morning, good people. Let's kick it off. Say hi to Ednah. Ednah, Mr. Lemiwa, beautiful. She's giving you the thumbs up. Tibbs Muga says, good morning, team. American dollar reserve might be challenged by Europe. The world have spoken. Okay. And Gore says, good morning, my beautiful people. Greeting you from the beautiful city of Nairobi. Now, Apenda Sana, and we see you this morning. Good morning, and Karibu as well to the room. So our live streams are up this morning. They had a little bit of an issue, but that's getting back in. It's so good to see you guys all getting in this morning. And also to folks who are listening in on Facebook and on X as well. Karibuni. Sana. I wanted to say something and then it has left me. But it'll come back and I'll remind you guys about that this morning. Let's look into the headlines, shall we? Oh yeah, Trump did the thing again. Yesterday was Thursday and he came up with a whole raft of new edicts. The man is on a mission, but we'll look into some of those details. How about we look at the front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. The Butcher. The Standard really is bold over the last couple of days. And that's the headline. Sudan's rapid support force generals are in Nairobi to sign pacts. That's supposed to happen today, the announcement of a parallel government. However, underneath the veneer of peace talks is a history of bloodshed and displacements the international community has described as the Darfur genocide, where 300,000 lives were lost.
And guess who was at the in the thickest of all this? This gentleman.
And that's why he's been called the Butcher. His name, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. We'll look into some of the details, but just cross lines there. Hemedti is a Sudanese military leader and the commander of the Rapid Support Force, a powerful paramilitary group that emerged from the Janjaweed militias involved in the Darfur conflict. Remember the Janjaweed? Yes. He was born in 1974 in Darfur. He's actually quite young. And initially worked as a camel trader before rising through the ranks of the Janjaweed during the war in Darfur. Under former President Omar al-Bashir, Hemedti became a key player in Sudanese security as Bashir formalized the RSF in 2013 to counter internal threats. In a past interview, Hamdan had said, "I am not the first man to have gold mines. It is true, we have gold mines, and there is nothing preventing us from working in gold." Okay, it's going to be an interesting Friday. Because if we see that happening, we have also seen that yesterday Sudan recalled the ambassador to Kenya, and we also saw that a couple of things were said from MOFA, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in terms of who said or did not say what. We'll look into the details of this story going in just a bit. Why state bites its tongue on housing levy? Okay, somebody's bit their tongue somewhere. A cat's got something. Is it a tax? Is it a levy? Do you get a house? Do you not get a house? What is the thing? Prepare for tolls on highways. Which highway? This Mombasa road. That there's no marking.
It's not one highway.
Highways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nairobi, Nakuru, highway.
Highway.
Nakuru, Kisumu,
Highway. Nairobi, Mombasa, highway.
Nairobi, Thika,
Highway.
Thika and beyond up to Marsabit.
Highways.
Yes, thank you very much.
Prepare for tolls there. Essentially, that is what you
started that conversation
are being told. Yeah, we'll look into that as well. Great moments unfold one swing at a time. Get onto the greens today at the magical Kenya Open. Started yesterday, the 20th of February, and goes up until Sunday. Come out and enjoy on the greens and try to see who's going to get a hole in one during the magical Kenya Open. Remember that the MKO Village will also be open for great entertainment throughout, and you get a chance to meet all the players who will be out on the greens this weekend right up until Sunday. And so that will happen. Get your tickets. You can still do that and enjoy great weekend of golf for the magical Kenya Open. We'll come back and look at some of those newspapers of the UCT in a bit.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start the weather with SpiceFM.
All right, looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 16, going to highs of 28, and it's 11 and cloudy in Nakuru, 10 degrees and clear in Nyeri, and 11 and mostly clear in Eldoret. Into Mombasa at 25, it's cloudy, while Malindi at 25 is sunny. Mostly clear skies in Kisumu at 19, while Kakamega at 19, or rather 16 is mostly clear. It's clear in Kampala at 19, going to highs of 31, while Dar es Salaam at 27 is cloudy with highs of 32. Johannesburg is clear at 15, while Lagos at 28 is partly cloudy. Mogadishu at 24 is sunny, while Addis at 13 is mostly cloudy. It's 28 and cloudy in Lagos and 28 and cloudy in Kinshasa.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Okay, Friday morning, not too busy right about now. Just a look at different roads, and in and outbound traffic seems to be going along really well. Let's look at Uhuru Highway that's going to take you in from the city out towards Mombasa Road, and also Mombasa Road through to the city. On the Thika Superhighway, we have some traffic that's coming in from Githurai right around Kasarani. It's going to slow down just a little bit, but nothing beyond that. And just a little bit at the Pangani Underpass. We're still in early times this morning. Let's see how it all pans out, and you talk to us as we try to keep things moving. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so some of the other headlines that you have.
I am looking at the Star. This one, my friend. There are very many things happening in the Star. Okay, let's start with something that is a bit gossipy. Okay, Junior politicians' alleged romance with musician leaks online. It's a bit gossipy.
Okay, just a tad.
Yes. Yeah. Now let's get on to some of the meaty, headachy stuff. Fresh headache for President as MCAs renew push for more money. Problem here is some 5 billion apparently was slashed from the fund that's supposed to go to the assemblies, and they're saying, how on earth do you expect us to function? This wouldn't matter really, but then when you compare with the 15 billion that seems to be allocated to the office of the president, deputy, and prime cabinet, then this is
just a spot of bother.
Thank you very much. A bit of a pickle here. Right. Reform plans are on as NADCO set for debate. Okay, fine. NADCO set for debate. State to charge officials linked to loss of public cash. Go away.
They should stop it.
Go away and go far away. How often have we heard this? Go! Please just don't even go out of the planet. Go somewhere else.
Mars, the planet, even. So,
we need 1 billion for roadside declaration projects, said PS.
1 billion.
Time out. Just read that again.
We need 1 billion for roadside declaration projects, says PS.
Roadside declaration.
And that's what the headline says.
Okay.
So there's accommodation for roadside declarations that we know it's possible that a president or a deputy president could, stand on the side of the road and say, oh, by the way, we're going to do this. So in order to fill we need like 1 billion set aside because those things will happen. As opposed to saying, can we cut back on the roadside declarations? But sorry, just please carry on. I don't mean to shout.
It's a need, okay.
Well, let me just read this so you understand. According to document tabled by the State Department, Ruto has promised millions for the upgrade of 13 public health facilities spread across 8 counties. President Ruto's administration has seen the growing trend of unbudgeted projects during the 2 years, okay? This was according to Medical Services PS Harry Kimtai before the National Assembly, okay? He was merely saying that some of these things, when you look at what the cost will be, this is what it would amount to.
Okay.
That is what he was saying. So, essentially, if I am to interpret, he says roadside declarations are expensive.
In other words?
They're really, really expensive. Bang in the middle of the paper. Listen to this one. Listen very, very carefully. I missed something out, but I'm going to include it now. Ruto, Kindiki, and Supreme Court judges set for pay rise.
Okay.
Right. Pay rise.
Yes, very nice.
Right.
Oh, it's coming.
Yes. And there's a lot of money that, with the adjustment, President Ruto's pay could
possibility
increase to 1.6 million shillings. Don't kick a fuss. This is small pocket change. If you knew how some corporate leaders, we have people in this country who earn 20 million a month.
This is true.
Just so that you know.
This is true.
Okay? 1.6 million for a CEO is kidogo money in this country.
And then you're CEO of the country, surely.
Yeah, there are guys who earn money. You look at it, you wonder, is this...
Are we the same
country? Is this his benefit for retirement? They don't know.
Every month.
Every month he gets this amount of money. So, for a president, this is modest.
Okay.
Yeah, it is modest. So that is what is happening in the Star. Now, you need to understand what is also happening in the business daily. All right. Daily.
Sorry.
Okay. That one is...
That one is for Maziwa.
We'll talk about it, okay? New trailer and lorry purchases have after import tax increase. Meaning people who are buying trailers and lorries, the buying went... is down, okay, because of tax issues, meaning the cost became more. All right? State cuts expected new taxes revenue by 105 billion. This is now a treasury speaking. Cusco starts auctioning houses over mortgages default.
That didn't take long at all, did it?
There we go.
No, it didn't take long.
2 weeks.
It's we just read this.
Yes.
The guys in the dock the other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The other week, there had been stories about them. And now it's become a reality. By the way, this story was in the papers even yesterday.
Yeah.
Mortgages, you have mortgage somehow, Sako, problem, you, house, the other place, okay? Bang in the middle of this particular paper. Listen to this one. You like this one.
Drum roll.
Why you will pay to use major Nairobi Mombasa highways. Okay? You will do what?
Pay.
Right. So you see, this is a new era where we are paying.
The time is coming, eh?
The time cometh.
Yes. When you open your mouth and do like this,
and you
do like this, and there's somebody standing next to you with that machine saying, "Oh, 2 shillings and 50 cents." I'm telling you.
That was Asai 57. But you see, Murkomen, when he was in the previous ministry, he hinted at
was
this.
in roads, yes.
Yeah, he hinted at this.
Transport.
Kenyans reacted to it. He said that was just an idea, it was just a proposal, but it's a good thing. We should incorporate it. But now I think it's shipping up real quick.
I don't actually have a problem with taxes.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
Not really.
If we see the development that comes with
usually
it.
is what needs to accompany it.
Yeah.
Yes, that just small detail, but it's important. Small. It's really small, but it's an important detail.
Very.
So that's what we have in the business daily.
Okay.
Yes.
So, shall we look at this butcher story?
Oh, yes, please.
By all means, let's.
Okay. So, for us to understand, and I think we need to reiterate, right, that there are two countries with the name Sudan. There is Sudan, for which the capital is Khartoum, and then there's South Sudan, for which the capital is Juba. The country that is bringing this debacle and diplomatic faux pas and all its filibustering that we are seeing happening is Sudan. Okay? Now, as we go into that story, it's on page 4 of the Standard today, and little Mohammed, behind Sudan's violence, makes Nairobi his base. Hemedti's association with Kenya has placed the country under intense global scrutiny. His RSF group held a press conference in Nairobi's KICC where it announced intentions to form a parallel government. For ages, he has painted himself as a champion of democracy and a patriot within the troubled Sudan nation. But his track record has repeatedly told a different story, the story of a brutal man of hate, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. The general, better known as Hemedti or Little Mohammed, is the leader and the face of the most feared militia, of one of the most feared militia groups in Sudan, the Rapid Support Forces, wreaking havoc in the Eastern African nation. Hemedti's curious profile and association with Kenya has placed the country under intense global scrutiny. As the leader of the RSF, he controls vast wealth and wields ruthless influence, but his path to power is paved with the shattered lives of those who dared to stand in his way. Now, this is according to civil society groups, activists, and the United States, as well as the United Nations reports. The name Hemedti might sound endearing, a casual twist of Muhammad in Sudanese Arabic, but it has since become a name whispered in fear. The T suffix, often used to soften a name, now stands in stark contrast to the man it defines, a warlord who turned into a humble camel trader into the most feared figure in Sudan. What once may have been a nickname of familiarity has become a chilling brand, stamped with a legacy of violence, power, and bloodshed. His forces have been accused of ethnic cleansing, massacres, and widespread sexual violence. Now that sets the stage for this RSF force which he leads, which has said they are setting up a parallel government, and the announcement of this is going to happen in Nairobi when? Today.
Apparently,
so
it has been suspended.
Well, this is what he was announcing that was going to happen today.
Yes.
Now, his forces have been, Washington has imposed sanctions on Hemedti and companies funding the militia's operations. As the RSF plots its political future in Nairobi, its fighters under Hemedti have turned Sudan's villages into graveyards. So, looking at who this gentleman is and what RSF might have plans for in the future, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo is the face of Sudan's violent political marketplace, according to the World Peace Foundation. And they've said that Hemedti's career is an object lesson in a political entrepreneurship by a specialist in violence. What would it portend that the acceptance, again, just looking at the acceptance of, in the first place, Kenya saying, fine, if that's what you're going to do, come and do that. But some said that it was a brush stroke of a diplomatic masterpiece, whereby Kenya said, come and have this conversation, because they knew that what it would do is that it would invite the angst of the government of the day. And that would force people to come to the negotiating table to look for some kind of peace. I will always look at the humanitarian side of any conflict, because even as these powerful individuals speak one to another, the people to the tune of 300,000 have died. People to the tune of millions are living in a terrible hunger situation. The infrastructure of the nation has whittled down, and the world watches. So when these two elephants might or might not speak, what happens to the people in the country?
It's very interesting, however, that perhaps they got the reaction they wanted, because apparently, when you said yesterday that this was, to force, the other party to come into the negotiating table, surprisingly, just that evening, that after our show, we think that President William Ruto announced the suspension of the ongoing mediation talks between the South Sudan government and the country's opposition holdout group. And of course, he conveyed this through his X platform. On Thursday, he revealed that he had met with the opposition delegation from South Sudan, and at the request of South Sudanese government, agreed to temporarily pause the mediation efforts until March 2025. So it kind of worked for them. And I think that is kind of the reaction they anticipated. However, still puts us on the spot because they I don't know, sometimes I'm like, they could have chosen any other country.
What worked for who?
What
worked for who?
What worked for who?
You said that it worked for them. Worked for who?
They needed a response. They needed somebody to say, you know what, let's see how, do not proceed. That is the government.
No, they wanted to proceed. It didn't work for them.
No, they wanted to, but they wanted they wanted a response from the other side. Like, if he had not said something, they would have actually, proceeded through with what they wanted to do today. But President William Ruto, for some reason, after the government spoke with him, there was an argument that they postponed it to March 2025. If anything, if there was no communication whatsoever, I am of the belief that this agreement signage might have just proceeded. In my thoughts, because that particular invoking message, from President William Ruto came from somewhere. South Sudanese had implored
not
him.
South Sudan, Sudan.
Yeah, Sudan. I mean, Sudan government, had something to say, because basically with the momentum it had picked, right, and all the analysis that were going on with all this, and we had diplomats, including some who were actually envoys to South Sudan at that time, actually criticized strongly President William Ruto, but did not really make him change his mind. What he's attributing his, X message to is the reaction from the Sudan's government, and that's what I am saying. Had they not spoken, maybe by today at KCC, this would have been signed.
This is a monster that the Sudanese government created.
Yeah.
When you had what you call the Darfur conflict, Sudan has had two major wars. The problem was that people who lived in Darfur, this was the complaint. The leadership in Khartoum were predominantly known as Arabic. Now the non-Arabs, you're talking about the Fur, the Zagawa, the Masalit, these are people who were in Darfur. And it was said then that the treatment that they were given, or the treatment that was meted out to them, were more or less apartheid-like treatment. So when they revolted, you're talking about two groups, that the Sudan Liberation Movement, the Justice and Equality Movement, when they decided that they were actually going to provide armed resistance against the Sudanese government, the Sudanese government started supporting militias like the Janjaweed. Now, this particular gentleman who's at the heart of this conversation was among those leaders. Then he eventually rose to the very top. So this was a creation of the then Sudanese government because they wanted to quell. And the atrocities that were committed in Darfur, these are ground-shaking, ground-moving, earth-shaking atrocities. They were not
terrible
civilians, okay? So when the headline of the Standard says the butcher, this is not something that they're saying lightly. They have looked at the history and the violence that is represented by this gentleman and his group. My friend, those are what you call atrocities.
Absolutely.
Individuals like these ought to have been heading to The Hague.
Does The Hague function, Andrew?
Oh, the Hague does function. I'm simply saying that if you're to look at the history of something and the problem that arose, and now this is the individual who now, remember, then turns again and decides that even him, he can rule. So the very people who created him, he turns against them, and now you have another war in Sudan, and this one is a serious one. People are being displaced in the hundreds of thousands, nearing 1 million.
300,000 people have died already.
Those ones died. Yeah. More are dying. Not those ones. Those ones died.
Most recently butchered.
More are dying even now as a result, because this war hasn't come to an end. Now, when you look at this background, and then you host these, let us even say that you had hosted the Sudanese government, so that we understand this. Okay?
Yeah.
And you had hosted the generals. These are all military people. Would this particular group, RSF, would they not have complained?
Of course they would have.
Okay, so now if you had hosted the generals who formed the Sudanese government, how then would you then say that you are forcing the RSF to come to the table to have a discussion? How would that play out? Because the discussion, that we're now having is that by bringing him here, that's what is being done. Is it really? Is it really? Is this how conflicts are solved? The time-honored tradition in solving conflicts that you bring the two warring parties together.
At the same time.
That's how it is done. But you bring one, and then you say someone alleges that this now is a way of bringing about a moment where discussions can be had to end the conflict.
Nah.
And the way I see these groupings, these people don't really want dialogue.
This is crazy.
No.
I mean,
No, they don't want
the United
dialogue.
Nations-
Somebody wants the position of rulership
about power.
in government. That's it.
In fact, the United Nations, guys, has also sounded the alarm. And just bringing out the numbers as you have just created the picture. A fact-finding mission found evidence of war crimes, including rape, just like Ndu had said earlier. And forced displacement in Darfur alone, over 10,500 civilians have been killed. 10,500, and that's just the full alone. And survivors, and according to what CT has said, survivors are now describing ethnic cleansing targeted non-Arabic communities, with men executed, homes torched, and women subjected to brutal assaults. It is crazy.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. But, look, the business of conflict, when you see it's either over resources or it's over power that we've seen. And to see how this will unfold, March 2025, I don't know, will be any different from what we're seeing today. It's a month away, but let's see what happens. But then what has come out also from this is how Kenya deals with its diplomatic relations regionally and otherwise. So it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. Another story?
Pretty much, I'm just looking at what we discussed yesterday, matters education, which I cannot ignore. On page 5 of the Steel Bull newspaper, financial crisis in public schools to worsen as state eyes funding cuts. All right, basic education PS Kipsang warns that 982,197 students may miss out on capitation. School heads have written to the Ministry of Education demanding to increase the fees. Now, parents with children in public secondary schools may soon face increased financial strain as the government plans to further cut funding. The move could lead to school heads raising fees to bridge the funding shortfall. The schools will receive 21 billion shillings less than what is needed to provide capitation under the free day secondary education program. And if I continue, under this program, each secondary school student is supposed to receive 22,244 shillings. And to support this, the Ministry of Education says it requires 76 billion shillings. However, the government has only allocated 54 billion shillings in the budget estimate. All right, there we have it. And in junior secondary schools, there will be a 4 billion shillings shortfall as the budget team allocates only 45.6 billion shillings out of the required 49.72 billion shillings. The impact of these cuts could be severe, as schools are already grappling with rising costs, and the underfunding may force many to impose more levies or cut essential services. And I hope that doesn't go to any feeding program whatsoever. But that is it, essentially, for the schools. We're always grappling. Either they're delayed or they're insufficient. But now at the budget level, there is a problem. And I don't know, the anxiety, they're just about to take the midterm break. But look at that. Financial crisis in public schools to worsen as the state eyes funding cuts. You're talking about some extra, you said it was very little money, it's moderate, what we are planning to give the CEO of the country.
1.6 million compared to what other CEOs in the private sector earn.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
It's nothing, yeah. Also, we're looking at 15 billion shillings thereabout for those top officers if anything was to just go by. But look at this. We're cutting some funds in the education sector. We do not have enough.
Those are some of the things that we like doing.
Yeah. I think we do have enough, but according to terms of priority, where is it going? Okay. And I always say, if you want to see the true picture of a nation, look at how the most vulnerable in the nation are treated. Your children, how are they being educated? You're sick, how are they being taken care of? your poor, how are they being supported?
Senior citizens.
Look at the most vulnerable.
Yes, senior citizens.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Are you senior?
Arranging your coats. Well done. How we treat you is the picture of the nation. All right. So, I mean, look, we can cry me a river. We can keep talking about this thing, but unless we are able to then prioritize, then...
Can we talk about levies?
Let's do it.
Yeah, please.
That is road levies. Yeah? You do, in the 1980s, okay, some people had not been born. Yes, in the 1980s, some people had not been born.
Many people
some
had
people
not been born.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Some people had not been born.
Many people,
and
actually.
many right now, okay? But we used to have tolls on roads, okay? If you go onto Thika Highway, you will find that they're approaching, is it just beyond Juja, before Juja?
Oh, the toll.
Yes. We would pay as we proceed.
Actually, it's a place called Toll. They named it Toll for that reason.
You are absolutely correct, 100%. If it was a Diamond Trust mortgage, it would be 105%. On your way to Nakuru, yes, some around Gilgil there was also a toll. But this was removed. What they did was, the government then added 25 shillings for every litre of petrol that you bought. Now that was what was used for the maintenance of roads, okay? So road maintenance fund. So that levy was there. So, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. Brilliant. Non-intrusive. I mean, when you have fuel in your car, it means you use the road. So when you when you use the road, you also pay for it, even as you fuel to move on the road. Man, it was
good stuff.
Good stuff. But now we are saying we are going to do you one better. Okay, we are going to charge you more now. Toll that toll that we had removed we're going to bring it back, and we're going to start on the Thika road and expanded Kiambu roads.
Okay,
we're starting. Let me just say, this thing normally ends with you paying more if you're going to Mombasa, and you paying more if you're going towards Nakuru. Thika, they've already covered.
So let me get this clear. So you get in your car, you're going to have to pay anyway, because you have to, in order to move the vehicle, you have to pay a particular...
It's called fuel.
No. Before the fuel, CT, even like your insurance and stuff like that, there's amounts of that.
Yes.
We've gone to fundamental basics.
Yeah.
First of all, you need to buy the car.
But first.
Okay, yeah.
No, let's assume that you've bought the car, you have everything.
Even if you haven't bought, let's say you've hired it.
Thank you.
Oh, that also
to
involves
put it
money.
on the road.
Okay.
You have to.
There are certain costs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then now to fuel the thing, from that money, there's a tax that goes.
Yeah, when you fuel it, you're paying.
Yes.
For the maintenance of the road.
Now, we are saying to now even use the road, we're going to ask you to pay a little bit.
What we're saying is this. You will need to pay more because given what we are undergoing right now, we'll need more money to be able to repair the roads, because when you have more people, the likelihood of more people buying more cars is there. So when they buy more cars, then they will use the roads more.
What
so
we are undergoing right now.
Yes, so if you use the roads more, it means you also need to maintain the roads more. Yes.
Better.
Yeah, but you see, that argument doesn't actually hold water.
Agree.
Because, yes, for you to be on that road, you fueled. So if you fueled, essentially there are more people already paying that road levy.
Exactly.
So this particular one...
There is no fuel that anybody will buy that say, okay, on Tuesday it didn't have road maintenance.
Oh, it has.
Levy.
It always has.
Every litre of fuel that you buy has the levy. So by virtue of the fact that there's a vehicle on the road, it's moving. Everybody does. But the question, and this is where that thing that you're talking about, I don't mind paying taxes. In fact, I think we should pay taxes. I think we ought to pay.
It's patriotic.
However, thanks. Can we see the thing that the tax is going to do?
It's not too much to ask, really.
It's just a simple question. Take 50% if you like. However, let me walk into hospital, no problem. Let my children go to school, no problem. Let us go and see that the roads are like, you see the way my arm is smooth, like this. Through the country, let the roads be like this, and let the interchanges be amazing.
Amazing.
That's what we are talking about.
Not this confused things we see.
That's what we're talking about.
You see, the government has its work cut out for it because it needs money. Some debts are due. You're going to have to start paying. It's a serious juggling act. And a lot of what we see simply represents that. But when will the government learn that they can actually take the time to explain these things? When you just hit somebody on the head with the taxes, they will react. So before they react and before you hit them on the head, can you tell them, I am going to hit you on the head, but The reason is because your head was heading in the wrong direction. Okay?
So let me sort this
So
out.
by hitting it, I'm actually rectifying its trajectory. Explain it. Take the time and speak about it, for heaven's sake. Because so long as these things are just, here it is, this is what we're going to do, it will be resisted. And it doesn't need to be resisted if it is explained.
If it is explained?
No.
If it is explained...
Yes, and there are people who think we don't need to explain. You do.
Yes, you do. You actually do.
You do.
You need to tell people what's going on.
You do.
But I hear that the Ministry of Transport and Roads argues that this is the only viable option to continue investing in new roads,
It may be so.
And boosts.
It may be so. The drafters and the writers of our constitution understood that the task of governing is an onerous task. That's why they introduced what you call public participation.
Right.
These people whom you want to take taxes from, explain to them why you want to take that money and what it's going to do. Not in a sentence. Take the time and detail and explain.
Not react to when people come and tell you, oh, we can't do, then you react. No. You should have set the
It's
stage.
you who knows what you want to do. Tell them so that they're of the same mind. You understand it fully. We don't. Let us understand it.
Let us understand it, indeed. So something else that people need to understand, and maybe is causing a little bit of, furore. The government struggles to justify housing levy amid public discontent.
Oh, yes.
The government is still fumbling to find the right words to use to justify the affordable housing levy a year after the law came into effect, with more promises of up to 5,000 units completed every quarter being issued. So according to the Affordable Housing Act 2024, which came into effect last year in March, this is a way of streamlining contentious issues related to the levy. Now, 65 billion shillings is the number that is collected annually. This fund, as noted by Lands Public Works and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome, says it's not necessarily going to be used to put up units, but to facilitate offtake. Please, do you understand what that means?
No.
The 65 billion that you're collecting every year is not for building houses, it's to facilitate offtake. Just sounds like a sexy way of saying we're not using it to build the houses.
I was particularly disheartened when she outrightly said, you're still going to have to buy the house.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No.
She said that. She did. She said, and first, it's a tax.
I agree. You are quoting what Alice Wahome said.
I'm just quoting.
Yes, and you are right in quoting because that's what she said. There is something called Boma Yangu. Okay? If you want to buy a house, you go to Boma Yangu.
Okay.
They will tell you where houses are, where they've been built, what they cost, blah, 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 and then you can buy. Taxes are just that. Taxes. In 1902, there's something we had called hut tax in this country.
Hut.
H-U-T, hoot.
Hut like the house.
Hut, house.
Okay.
Yeah, hut tax. It was introduced. Where? You've heard of Ojijo Road, you've seen it?
Ojijo Road, yeah, the one that floats every time it's sprinkled.
Yes. The gentleman whom his name was called Ojijo Okello. Okay? He led a movement called Pinyoacho.
That's a lot of Luo.
It is, yes.
Pinyoacho.
Yeah. The world has spoken.
Ojijo Okello was a Luo.
Of course.
Came from South Nyanza, the neck of the woods. He was simply saying, look, this thing of taxing us without representation is not happening. We are not going to pay. And how you paid for that tax was with your cows. Yes. They were resisting this very same thing. You are taxing us. Fine. How are we benefiting from it exactly? Now, this was in the previous century when the colonialist was still here. Now, surely this is the 21st century.
Right. It's still happening.
It actually helps. Just
tell people what's going on.
There's so much angst that you will do away with if you just take the time to explain this thing. Because if you don't, there'll be angst.
Exactly. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour, and I want to remind you, Lipa Pole Pole with Jubilee Insurance, you don't need to pay a lump sum upfront. You can start enjoying full coverage and pay in manageable installments. Jubilee Health Insurance has a wide network of over 800 hospitals for international treatment and overseas referrals. So we'll tell you about the senior medical cover, 150,000, 500 to 10 million for outpatient and for inpatient, and 50,000 to 200,000 for inpatient. Chronic illnesses also covered, and all you need to do is SMS the word health to 40643 or call 0709 949 000 or visit the website www.jubileeinsurance.com.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 SpiceFM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Parents with children in public secondary schools may soon face increased financial strain as the government plans to further cut funding. The move could lead to school heads raising fees to bridge the funding shortfall. Schools would receive 21 billion shillings less than what is needed to provide capitation under the free day secondary education program. Under this program, each secondary school student is supposed to receive 22,244 shillings, and to support this, the Ministry of Education says it requires 76 billion shillings. However, the government has only allocated 54 billion shillings in the budget estimate, meaning that over 980,000 students may miss out on capitation. The Ministry of Health has reaffirmed its commitment to addressing the concerns of medical interns as the Doctors' Union threatens to strike over the welfare of the interns. In a statement, the ministry said payments for the cohort of 1,247 interns currently in training centres are being made as per the 2017 CBA. On Monday, Health CS Deborah Barasa hinted at plans to cut the salary of medical interns from 206,000 shillings as stipulated in the CBA to 70,000 shillings. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, however, condemned Barasa's statement, terming it malicious, backward and shameful. KMPDU Secretary General Dr. Davji Atela issued a 30-day strike notice to the ministry, demanding that all interns be posted and paid in full as per the existing CBA.
Can't afford to pay interns this year because of the US aid freeze that happened by Donald Trump. If the USA if the Trump is putting USA first, the government need to put the Kenyans first. Yes. Kenyans first. If the wages are to be reduced or to be changed, it should not start with the intern doctors. It should be for all. It should start with the presidents, the ministers, and everyone else. So that's why we are saying we will not have any discussions that are reducing the wages. We will not entertain any discussions or any negotiations that reduce that as the CBA. We will only have a discussions on when to post the interns, where to post them, but wages have to remain intact.
Businessman Jimmy Wanjigi has won his legal battles with the state after the High Court dismissed the firearms case against him, citing constitutional violations. Justice Bahati Mwamuye dismissed allegations of illegal possession of firearms levelled against Wanjigi and declared null and void the revocation of his firearms certificate. Justice Mwamuye ruled that the respondents had failed to follow due process and restrained them from pressing any criminal charges related to the matter. He also ruled that the DPP had acted inconsistently with the Constitution in prosecuting Wanjigi's employees Duncan Odhiambo and Calvin Ocheng and terminated the criminal proceedings against them. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's allies have protested Tuesday's arrest of Juja MP George Koimburi over his claims that the government spent 13 billion shillings on Raila Odinga's failed AUC bid. Addressing journalists at Parliament buildings on Thursday, the lawmakers, led by Kiambu Senator Karungu Thangwa, claimed that there had been plans to rearrest Koimburi after he was charged on Wednesday. This came hours after drama unfolded outside the Kiambu Law Courts, when Koimburi fled on a motorbike to avoid what his lawyer described as an attempted abduction. Koimburi, who was released on Wednesday on a 200,000 shillings cash bail, had just attended court for direction on whether he'd take plea on a charge of failing to attend court on numerous dates. Koimburi's legal team thwarted an attempt by a group of men in civilian clothes to grab his hand. He then fled amid songs and chants, fearing that he'd be rearrested.
Charges you saw yesterday are charges that the court has sufficiently dealt with in the past.
When we arrived here, they revived an old case which the DPP had withdrawn. That particular case, we are willing to handle it. But that does not make us forget the main reason why Mr. Koimburi is in trouble.
On Wednesday, Koimburi pleaded not guilty to 6 charges of forging his academic documents after the DPP revived the 2021 case. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamir.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform, better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions, global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock, 6 minutes specifically, getting into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday, the 21st of February. So we're getting into international markets and a business conversation this morning. And before we do that, so CT, you've been telling us about how we can get mortgages, the diamond touch, and how we can do that.
Yes, I have been. You see, there are certain things that by their very nature are real. And as human beings, by our very nature, we doubt them. One of them is when you tell someone that there's a way in which you can buy a house that can A, suit your needs and also suit the needs and the capacity of your pocket. Now, Diamond Trust Bank is saying precisely that. And it isn't a fairy tale. They're saying, look, buying a house can be an onerous task. It can be difficult. It can be expensive. We understand that. We are a bank. So we've come up with this program that you may want to hear, and if you do hear, you may want to be part of. Okay? The following information is what you need to understand. One,
Right.
Diamond Trust Bank has branches all over the country, perhaps even in East Africa. Diamond Trust Bank have this particular facility at a very, very special rate. 9% interest for 10 years, 9.75% for 25 years. That's one. Say check.
Check.
Then they are saying there are no hidden charges. Check.
Check.
They're saying if you have a schedule of payment and you pay ahead of that schedule, there are no penalties. Check. Right. This is really good. You're wonderful students.
Thank you, please.
And then they're also saying it doesn't really matter whether you're self-employed or whether you have a pay slip or whether you're in the diaspora. Now, this is the clincher. You have a pay slip, you're paid, you're in employment. They can afford you up to 105%, not 100, 105. So 100 for the house, 5% for the cost of actually ensuring that you get this money. In the diaspora, up to 80%. Now, all you need to do to ensure that you join this delightful, wonderful bandwagon is you either email mortgages@dtbafrica.com or you visit any Diamond Trust branch.
All right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Good stuff. Great. Okay. So as we get into a conversation this morning, Ahmed Farah is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, and he's here with us this morning. Ahmed, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And thank you for having me this morning.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah.
And looking into a number of conversations about why Kenya should, must, shall tap into the international markets and what benefits then are there. We'll get into the details of that. But CT is going to welcome you today with today's proverb. And then you can interpret that for us and tell us what it means to you. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
This is our final day for proverbs from the country of Niger, the Republic of Niger. Largest by landmass country in West Africa. Yesterday I was generous. I gave them first position on the continent. I was immediately corrected.
You've docked them some points.
Yes. I decided let me just give these brothers a boost. I was told CT, keep the boost. They are not number one. Please get your geography right. So I organized my geography and I got it right. Okay. The largest country in Africa by landmass is Algeria.
Right.
Followed very closely by DRC. Okay? Followed not so closely by Sudan, the country that is now sort of like going apart at the seams. Followed by Libya. This one has gone off the seams quite a bit. Followed by Chad.
Oh, yeah?
Then we have Niger at number 6. Okay?
Okay.
Right. The proverb. You know, I learned that the people of Niger, what are they called, by the way?
Nigerian. Okay, if you say it in French.
French is?
Nigerian. Or
Nigerian. Okay, and if I'm saying it in English? Nigerian.
The people of Niger.
So you don't go rrr, you go zzz.
Yeah, Nigerian.
Right.
Nigerian.
So not Nigerian.
No, Nigerian is from Nigeria.
It's really
so
close. For those who
Niger.
pronounce it as Niger.
Anki, Nigerian is.
I know, I'm being careful.
Okay. No matter how good you are to a goat, it will still eat your yam. Meaning, if you're one of these animal lovers where you even bite a hat and then you bite a T-shirt written, I am not a goat.
I'm a goat.
Yes.
I'm the goat.
It will still eat your yam.
Oh, yes.
And
Goche is not the greatest of all time.
Yes, but then the T-shirt
For
is
the
not
young
at you. You are the one wearing the T-shirt. You can wear it, but the goat is also wearing the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ahmed, how would you interpret that?
I'm fine, thank you. This early morning. Really delighted to be here, and I'm really honored to really be your guest this morning. Happy to discuss the areas of interest that you have and any other matter that I think might come through.
Any other matter.
Now, the first matter, I want you to tell us how you would interpret that proverb.
Well, I think that proverb, being Africa as it is, I think it's common to most communities. I think the message it sends is everything has its time and place. Everything has its time and place. You need the goat, you have to take care of it, and the goat needs to take care of itself. And a time will come when the goat will be needed, and the goat will be taken care of in a different way. So my interpretation to it is as that everything has its place and time.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Indeed.
Ramadan is not very far away.
We'll need it.
Yes, this particular subject becomes of importance at some point. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, from the very beginning, walk us through the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. What does this particular
Organization.
what does the organization do? What is its mandate?
So we are a business members organization, the largest and the oldest in the country at that, with presence across the country. So we're the only ones with a footprint in each of the 47 counties in Kenya, with our membership of no less than 50 companies as our members, representing all sectors of our economy. So our vision really as a Kenya National Chamber of Commerce is to support this business community, these business members, to create a vibrant and prosperous business environment for the country. We do this through facilitating trade, through trade promotion, trade expos, creating markets for our members, giving market intelligence, but also conducting B2B connections, B2C connections for our members, but also working closely with the relevant arms in the country to promote and support creation of a business environment that is going to allow our competitiveness to remain. It's been a challenge over time, but it's something that we do it on a day-to-day basis for our members. The largest members base for us are SMEs.
Okay.
And we're very focused to see how we can support our SMEs grow, access markets, but also position themselves in a way that they can start repowering their factories which have gone down for a while. They've shut down for a while, yes.
Yeah. So do you look into, if we talk about factories that have shut down, you look into the reasons as to why they have,
Yes.
and then are able to bring them back on track? What are some of those that you've seen have been the reasons why business over time has shut down? I mean, CT keeps talking about the cottage industries that existed, a while back, and a good number of those don't exist today. Because of certain issues. I don't know whether it is capital issues or whether it is, relevance issues anymore. Cotton industries, for example, huge factories that existed, 10, 20 years ago that don't exist today. How do you look through some of those?
10, 20, some 30, 40. You see, if you look at what we've just been told about the function and the nature of the Kenya National Bureau, here the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going Kenya Bureau of Statistics. Chamber of Commerce is, you have to ask, what's the history behind it? Why was it felt that we needed to have a Chamber of Commerce
to begin with?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So Chamber of Commerce is a platform that connects businesses, a platform that create markets for businesses, a platform that provides intelligence for our businesses, and is their voice when they're going through difficult times. Basically, that's the essence of the Chamber of Commerce. And it draws its membership, like I said, from all sectors of the economy and also all levels of businesses, from the border riders to the large enterprises.
So it does that internally. And then there's what it does externally. Yes. What are these things that it does externally?
Like I mentioned earlier on, we're there to open doors for our businesses in international markets, simply put.
All right.
So international trade has always been there. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce is there to facilitate that, to provide the export promotion services for our members through trade promotion, through exhibitions abroad, in markets of interest, through B2B connections, where we find specific business in our country that has specific area of interest in another market destination that is an export market for us. We provide those linkages. We're the only business membership of organization that has chambers across all other markets. So if we're interested in, for instance, the European market, we have European chambers, and we have chambers for specific European member states that we can relate and connect with for our members.
So how do you play in with national government? How do you play with G2G agreements that exist? Just recently, we've seen that the government has made an agreement with the UAE. We see that the Africa, Growth and Opportunity Act. We see the trade agreements that are made with Africa with different nations. So how does the chamber play with those agreements that are made on a national scale?
That's a very good question. So, firstly, during negotiations of those bilateral trade agreements, we are usually in the room. And this is to ensure that the private sector voice is heard and taken care of as those dotting of I's and crossing of T's are done in the bilateral trade agreements. Then the next step is to maximize on the benefits of that bilateral trade agreement. And how do you do this? You come now and domesticate. You customize the opportunities the trade agreement has provided to Kenyan private sector. And we do that by now unpacking the trade agreement, sensitizing our members on the opportunities on specific line benefits. Most of them will be duty-free, quota-free, access to that market. And we go along now to start sensitizing our members in partnership with the relevant arms of government. Like, for instance, from the EU, we're working closely with the State Department of Trade to sensitize our members, the SMEs mostly, on the unique standards that are demanded of the markets that we are getting access to. SPS standards, quality standards, basically market entry requirements. That is one side of it. Then we also, like for instance, the one you just made reference to, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is the most recently signed. Just 3 or 4 weeks ago, we started engagement with the UAE Embassy as Kenya National Chamber of Commerce here in the country. We've started discussing on determining how we can pull together private sector through establishment of a joint business council between Kenyan businesses and UAE businesses that are going to meet regularly and handhold literally our private sector to make sure that the spirit and ambition of the agreement is kept alive and it's extended to our private sector.
There's something called the is it CF conference?
World Chamber Federation Conference.
World Chamber Confederation Conference. You know what is interesting? There's another one called World Conference of Families.
Okay. You just thought you'd throw that in.
No, it's there. You know, tell us about this and why it is that it's important that we in Kenya should pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is a big deal. We're extremely honored and privileged as a country to be hosting the World Chamber Federation Summit that's happening in Africa for the first time. So all these Chamber of Commerces, including Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, have a home. And that home is the World Chamber Federation. It's a platform of over 3,000 chambers. And this is situated in Paris. What the WCF, World Chamber Federation, does on an annual basis, they organize summits across the world, bringing together chamber leaders, bringing together business leaders, bringing together policymakers to discuss topical issues of business. This is the first time it's coming to Africa, and it's being hosted in Nairobi at KICC on 9th to 11th of April. And for us, we're seeing it as an opportunity for meaningful conversations and partnerships to be created on matters trade, investments, and economic cooperation. So we actually didn't just get handed over this summit in Africa. It was a bidding contest, and we won it in a contest against Nigeria and South Africa. So we're not looking at only just bringing business leaders, chamber leaders, policymakers, innovators to Kenya to discuss matters trade and investments and economic cooperation, but also we've sold the magical aspect of Kenya. We were selling the naturally endowed, beautiful touristic features and attractions that we have for the world. And there will be also an opportunity for businesses, startups, innovators to carry out exhibitions. So this is the first time that this summit that is having on its side a platform for exhibitors to come and demonstrate their products, their services to the world.
All right. Now, I think that's really good for Kenya, but I want us to go a little deeper. I know you just touched on the surface why, what you're selling about Kenya. But if I'm, invested or interested, I would want to find out what makes Kenya, all right, an attractive location for global business, because I think that's where we are targeting the global, businesses and investors. So what really makes Kenya the place for them?
Well, so many good things are going on for us. We, for a fact, have a stable political and economic environment. Our macroeconomic indicators have been stable relative to the rest of the continent. We are the 29th fastest growing economy in the world, believe it or not. In terms of investment at momentum, in Africa, we are rated as the first in investment momentum. We received the highest startup capital in 2023 in Africa, for the first time trouncing Nigeria. Our human capital is rated number 1 on innovation and research. So there's so many good things working for us as a country. When it comes to geographical location, we are at a very strategic location, which is a gateway to East Africa and Africa at large. logistics across Africa from Kenya is almost same for 5 hours across any part of Africa. We increase at a very rapid rate, becoming a hub for technology, finance, business, and commerce. And this augurs very well for our country as a platform for entry into Africa as Africa comes together as one market.
But it's really pleasant to hear that good side of what it is. But of course, it would be fair to also try and demystify what is being said out there, or what other companies that are folded might use as their arguments as far as Kenya as a business hub would look like. If you've heard some of these, including the taxes, you've talked about political stability, but if you just try and demystify some of these things that might be repelling the good things that you're trying to do, it would be a good thing.
I think there are a few things that we have to put into perspective. The macro indicators across the world have been a challenge to most countries across all continents, not just Africa and not just Kenya. We've, as a world, come out from a difficult period through the COVID-19 pandemic.
True.
Global supply chains were disrupted. And this inevitably has affected all economies, including Kenya. Can we endeavor and push for a better business environment? Yes, and that's what we are there as Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, to try and enhance the voice of our private sector, address topical issues such as what you've just highlighted, tax. But let's not take away that from the opportunities Kenya presents. Let's not take away that from the fact that Kenya remains an attractive investment destination hub. And that's what we are focusing on at the same time. So we have to run this on parallel. We have to continue voicing out for the private sector. We have to continue advocating for a business environment that is conducive and will maintain our competitiveness, but at the same time leverage on the advantages and the values that Kenya presents to the international community on trade and investments.
And even so, why is it then a good thing that this summit is happening on the continent this year?
Why is it a good thing that it's happening?
Yeah.
Well, it brings the world to Africa. It positions and places Africa at the global stage on matters trade and investment. And it basically speaks to the world on Africa being not the next frontier.
The frontier.
It is the frontier. It's the present frontier for trade and investments. We look at this as an opportunity in Africa, by Africa, for the world. So we're saying to the world, come and do business with us. We're not just focused on, we don't want to focus on just aid. We want to focus on partnerships. We want to focus on economic cooperation. We want to focus on trade. And we have enormous potential in Africa. We want to take to leverage that for Africans, but we are available to trade and work with the world. If you think about it, the marketplace for Africa is 1.3 billion people with a GDP of 3.4 trillion. It's projected by 2050 that to grow to 2.5 billion marketplace. It will be, if not the largest, one of the largest. And who is going to benefit from this if not Africans coming together and working together to promote inter-Africa trade? The total global trade from Africa is just less than 3%. Inter-Africa trade is about 13%, 14%. If you think about economics such as Europe, they trade between themselves to a level of 60% of total trade. So the opportunities are immense, not just for the world, but more so for Africa.
I think that's a very interesting point that you bring, but how can we insist, because one of the main issues that we're talking about this morning is the need to then jump onto the international market stage and start to do business. Small businesses, large businesses, medium businesses. How can we jump onto the extra Africa trade without having raised the percentage of trade that African countries do with one another?
We have to trade with one another. That has to be our focus as an economy in Africa. And it's such a low-hanging fruit, and there's a lot of work that has been done, good work, through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Secretariat. The Africa Agenda 2063 has clear dreams for Africa. And there are so many protocols that have been established already through the Secretariat that are opening up doors for businesses in Africa to work together. But international markets will still remain important. Just to give you a flavor of our economy as a country, our total exports in 2023 is just shy of $7.5 billion. But the total trade and opportunities across the world is $25 trillion. We have barely scratched the surface for the international market. So as African economies, we have to make a decision. We have to grow. We have to diversify economies. We have to value add the products that we provide. To which markets do we target? Again, it's going to be a strategic decision by each of the economies. But the African market presents enormous opportunity that we can tap, and we'll still continue trading and cooperating with international markets.
Let me give you a perspective.
Yeah.
If you look at Kenya, I'm looking at what the Minister for Finance said. He said the verified and paid bills due to MSMEs were almost 480 billion. Okay?
Verified.
That's what he said, verified. Which,
you know what that suggests? It's more.
Yes.
But what has been verified?
Yes. And he says, and I'm saying this is roughly 95% of total unpaid bills.
Yeah.
Okay? Many of these people are your members.
100%.
Now, two questions. One, does the Chamber of Commerce have any clout, or what does it do to enable their members to actually get paid? Okay, that's question number one.
Yeah.
Then I'm dovetailing it to the issue of trade that you say we must enhance and look at is it the global north and what it is that they're able to do. It's very simple. The industrialists and commercial enterprises have power and might. On our continent, it's the politicians who have power and might, and they make terrible business people by and large. So now, let's start with the first one. What is it that the Chamber of Commerce is doing to help the members get the money that is due to them? Because part of what hampers growth is something of this nature.
100%. I fully agree with you, Siti. The reason why our members are struggling is, and to the point that I made earlier on, our factories are shut. And for as long as they remain shut, it doesn't matter how many bilateral trade agreements you're going to sign as a country to open up markets for our members. They're not going to access those markets.
Right. All right.
You simply need finance.
You need financing. Let's take a break at this point. We're talking with Ahmed Farah, who is the CEO of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and looking at why Kenya then does need to jump onto the international market and start to trade vigorously in that area. We'll come back from this and continue with that conversation. And 1 million people, that's a number, it's a big one. 155,000, another number, it's a big one. That's the number of people that get into the job market, of which some don't have the skills that they require to actually get into work or into the business fraternity. And what happens is that the KCB Foundation has seen this gap and said, let's see how we can connect these individuals with the skills that they need and eventually connect them to these markets. And they've been doing that. 155,000 people have been trained so far, and that number will continue growing. 18 to 35 get into a skills program for 6 months and thereafter get onto the job market or get into business. Find out more about this, KCB Group /foundation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
14 degrees. It is partly sunny in Nairobi this morning. It's 12 degrees and sunny in Nakuru and 10 degrees and sunny in Nyeri. 15 and mostly sunny into Eldoret, while Mombasa at 26 is sunny. Malindi at 26 is mostly sunny as well. It's 18 degrees and sunny in Kisumu with 15 degrees and partly sunny conditions into Kakamega. 20 and partly sunny in Kampala with highs of 31, while Dar es Salaam at 28 is partly sunny. Johannesburg at 16 is sunny with sunny conditions at 26 in Mogadishu, 12 and clear in Addis Ababa with 28 and cloudy conditions in Lagos and cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
Even a moment waiting in traffic could be a moment with Delamere. Whichever product you choose today, I'm having the lemon biscuit as we look at what's going on with traffic this morning. As you're coming from the thicker superhighway, you're going to be stuck for a while, so there's a chance for you to grab your cup of Delamere yogurt. There's traffic going all the way through towards Survey, and there's some traffic coming off of Kiambu Road this morning. Kangunda Road has been busy off the jump from this morning, and we're looking at that bumper-to-bumper traffic as you get towards Outer Ring. Eastern Bypass has some traffic as you get towards North Airport Road. There's bumper-to-bumper action here as well coming off of Outer Ring. Langata Road, very busy as you approach then the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, and we're seeing some traffic coming off of Waiyaki Way this morning. So all in stride. Let's see what happens as we get through Friday morning. Keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 24 minutes to 8 o'clock, Ahmed Farah, the CEO of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, joins us this morning. And I just want to go through a couple of questions that we have from folks who are coming here. I mean, in relation to the summit that's happening in Nairobi in April. And a question from David is, does the chamber have the database of companies that are closed down, and why?
Yes, we do. We do engage regularly with the relevant arms of government that have a say on policy, regulatory and legal matters to do with business. And these are issues that are of concern to all of us as a country, not just Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. And the matters are being addressed. In fairness, there's been a lot of consultative engagements between private sector and the government leadership. There are actions that have been identified. There are bills that are underway that are meant to address some of these contextual issues for business environment.
Yeah.
So it is a concern to all of us, and it is a pain to government, that I know firsthand, because we do interact with them on a regular basis, and we're looking at addressing them.
Okay. So, I mean, I can see the connection that businesses would want to become members of the chamber, because now from that, there's the opportunity for some of the things that we speak about now, being involved in this Africa-wide summit that allows people to showcase their businesses and such. So then the next question would be, how do then members become members, or how do businesses become members?
Yeah, so we have a very simple procedure that we take our members, companies to join us as members. We'll just take the statutory documentation like certificate of incorporation and confirmation on the CR12, on the ownership and what they do, and immediately onboard them. It is the easiest of the exercises that anyone can go through. It's so painless, it happens in minutes. But what is most important is the next question: how do we retain them as members? Okay. And this is where we focus our energy at Kenya National Chamber of Commerce to ensure that we create and enhance member value.
Yeah.
And the member value goes to the issues that we've been talking about: advocating for an environment that will keep them competitive, supporting their bottom line, because we are there to support the bottom line of our members. And how do you support bottom line of our members? Is to create those markets, provide them with an opportunity to access those markets, and also access finance so that they can produce to access those markets. So basically, in summary, that's the hypothesis at which Kenya National Chamber of Commerce operates in.
Now, I know there's a lot of businesses, and it's a pool of them. But I'm curious to just if you could pick out some of the business sectors that are showing more promise for growth in Africa. Which ones would this be that are showing most of the promise for the growth of Africa as a continent?
Well, all sectors, to be fair, have enormous opportunity in Africa for growth. The thing that we have to do, and we have to continue doing as economies in Africa, is to focus on value addition.
Okay.
Looking at agriculture, our next steps have to be value addition. Looking at manufacturing, we have to go to the next level of not just assembling, but producing parts and putting together. Textiles and apparels, there's an increasing trend towards going to the final end. If you think backwards, most of the infrastructure laid out in Africa were geared towards extracting our resources. They're not geared towards connecting Africa as markets. So increasingly, we have, as Africans, work together to connect our markets in ways that doesn't just focus on extracting our raw materials to our seaports, whether minerals or agricultural produce, as it's been over the years. And there's a lot of progress towards this. And of course, leverage on technology.
All right.
And that is the increasing trend in all sectors,
Okay. So I want to, you talked about value add, and I think it's a big deal because if we look at things that are done with businesses around the continent, maybe looking towards the value add, because if you look at things that are done with resources that come from Africa, whether you want to talk about, the gold and precious stones, a lot of that is taken in raw form outside of the country, sold back onto the continent, and you wonder, how does that happen? One. Two, you look at things like cocoa. Cocoa is taken, it's made into chocolate, done all sorts of things, come back, sold, highly expensive, again, to Africa. Look at coffee, look at tea, the different variants of things that are done with that. Raw form taken from here, sold back to us in that value add. How can businesses that are domiciled here take advantage of the fact that the mineral or the raw material is here, and then scale that up to where the actual value add comes in, but sold on the international market? Do we see challenges of tariffs? We've seen that world has opened up a little bit. Why is that so difficult for us to make the connection?
That's a very good question. And over the years, it has been the easier thing to do, to just produce and sell without focusing on the next level of value addition. And that's how the international markets were created for us over the years. This is how, to be very straight and to the point, the international economies were built using our resources. But the leadership has changed its focus. Now we're looking at, like I said earlier on, if you look at the infrastructure, even layout, the roads and rails that were done over the years are designed to do exactly what you're just saying, extracting our raw materials.
All roads lead out.
Yes, they lead out. The infrastructure gap for us to reconnect our markets is no less than $100 billion a year. We have to attract investments to connect our markets. We have to create conducive environment to facilitate the next level of production, which is value addition. And there's a lot of progress towards that. Take, for instance, agriculture for us, tea. Not long ago, we had a market study that we carried in DRC. And a lot of that tea comes from markets that buy from Kenya, gets re-exported back to African markets who don't produce tea. We've had long discussions with the relevant players in our economy through the African market to see how we can start connecting African markets through value addition that is going to take place in Kenya. We are very promoting common user facilities that will provide an opportunity for even small-scale traders of tea and coffee to value add diversify the nature of the product. And through Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, we're looking at how we can provide them markets in Africa before we even go anywhere. So it's a necessary step. The legal and regulatory environments are being addressed to promote this, and we are taking a leading role as KNCCI to support our businesses access these markets through value-added products. Yeah.
But there is a way then that we can take advantage of technology as Africa and make this even better. Yeah, I know you tried to hint on it, but maybe you can delve deeper into that, because the whole world is going that direction.
100%.
And if Africa can just grab that opportunity, and now you know that we are the continent that everybody's eyeing even more than they used to before. So how do we take advantage of technology at this point?
To start with, we have to be proud of ourselves as a country. We are a technology hub for sub-Saharan Africa. We've done very well on fintech. We've done very well in e-commerce. We've done very well on using social media to promote businesses such as and open up marketplace. We've done very well in setting up digital services such as BPOs. The platform is there for us. The skills, the youth, we have learned population, and the embracing of AI, blockchain, and e-commerce is the way to go. And most of our international markets today are linked from our businesses here through technology. So it's a trend that is already there. It has already taken shape, and it's spreading very fast in Africa. We're looking at this summit to do exactly that, continue promoting innovation of technology and promote digitalization of trade across Africa.
Just on a light note, you know that AI has come with different you know, it could work for us or against us. And perhaps it would be very important to, you know, give proper trainings around it, because then I think it's very crucial, the AI happenings.
Yeah,
and you know, there are markets, global markets, that oddly enough, or markets for produce, that the centers of auction were characterized by the simple fact that they didn't even grow that particular produce.
I tell you example. The largest exporter of avocado, guess who it is? Netherlands. They don't have a single tree of avocado.
Well, they understood that perfectly. They have neighbors who, for 319 years, were the center of tea auctions. So, and not even a leaf. Not even a potted plant. But I mention this because it has changed.
Yeah.
Outside Colombo in Sri Lanka, Mombasa, second largest tea auction center on the planet. This center was set up in 1969. East Africa grows a heck of a lot of tea. Okay? There are people who grow more tea than us. India grows more tea than us. China grows more tea than us. But they tend to consume their teas. Okay? Now, I'm using this as an example. And then if you go across to Tanzania, the late President Magufuli started doing the very thing we're discussing. They have gold. And it was being carted off with earth around it. They said, hold it, hold it. What would it take for us to actually give the finished product here? See, a decision has to be made at some point. Like, for instance, we have iron ore. We have steel factories. Do we have factories that smelt iron ore? See, decisions have to be made. Now, so long as there are these terrible twins, a country where people who are in business are owed colossal amounts of money, which there seems to be no sight in when they're going to be paid. Clear indication that whatever growth will definitely be hampered. Then you have a situation where you actually do have natural resources and you do not see a clear path as to how the country is going to take the natural resource to the next stage where we have that value add that gives us the power to do the very trade that we're talking about. Because that's the power that our friends and neighbors and relatives in Europe and America
who
have
developed,
Yes, exactly. So it's all good and well to talk about what they do, but the question is, are we saying that we're not able to do what they do? Is that what we're saying? That we are unable to?
That's what we should challenge ourselves on.
Yes.
We can do. and we should do, and we've started doing it.
Do you see that the chamber would be able to work as a liaison then in one case, or does it already work as liaison between government and these businesses? Because there are certain things that seem to me that stand as bottlenecks. If there are businesses who are working and are owed money, it's difficult for them to pass through. If there are businesses who would like to take from point A to point B, but then you're met with a whole basket full of licenses that you must have, for example. If we have the agreement, for example, that was done between the UAE and Kenya, and we asked this question to the PS the other day in terms of what implementation infrastructure is in place to ensure that this agreement does not go up like, one case in point, AGOA, whereby the project or the act was in place for decades, but then can we see that something was actually done with the opportunity that was presented? So how can we actually make sure, and does the chamber then leverage between government and all this infrastructure that's needed, and then passing that on to these businesses who can compete in Kenya, who can compete in Africa, who can compete on the globe?
You just hit the nail on the head. That's the main purpose of our stay at Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, to bridge between businesses and government on all the issues that you've raised. All these pain points that our businesses go through are our pain. And that's what keeps us in office and on a day-to-day basis engage with government. For our members to access these markets our country has signed through this bilateral trade agreement, they will remain in the shelves for as long as private sector is not involved. And we are the ones who have stepped up to make sure that we engage with government, unpack the values provided in that bilateral trade agreement, and customize it for our members.
Yeah, because isn't that what happens on an international scale? If you want to just use the US, for example, that dug deep after the Second World War, and now when the world was in a state of peace, call it manufactured or otherwise, that private business started to ramp up. Whether you look at what happened with in the 20s and the 30s with the gold that was coming out of California, or the Jews who left Europe and now came to settle in certain states, and they came with their business acumen. It was private organizations, it was private companies, and the small, medium, large organizations who set up the banks. They're the ones who set up, the stores. They're the ones who set up the big outlets that we see today. But the thing is that they were backed by government.
100%. The Marshall Plan is what revived the global economy after World War II. I'm totally with you there. It has to be private sector to push the envelope. The government should be there to provide the necessary environment,
right,
supportive infrastructure for private sector to take on the mandate of reviving and running the economy. Government should not be in the business of doing business. Government should be in the business of providing supportive and facilitative environment. And that's what we're there as KNCCI, to work closely with government to make sure that we create that symbiotic environment, that we as the private sector should take on government on matters that we believe, if not addressed, we're going to lose our competitive advantage. Not just as a country, but as an economy in Africa.
But let me ask the question, do we have any competitive advantage as we speak?
We do plenty.
Give me an example. Just two.
You cannot compare anyone to Kenya when it comes to logistics advantages in connecting African market. From Kenya as a hub, you can access any markets easily through our ports, through our international airlines. We have 4 international airports. That you cannot take away from us as a country.
That's 1, 2. I'm putting you to task, but there's a reason why I'm doing this.
I agree with you. You cannot take away from the fact that we are ranked number 1 in terms of human resource on innovation and research. We provide the best skill force you can ever want, that anyone will need or wish for when it comes to trade and investments. We need to harness on that. We need to leverage on that.
And yet, we are trailing behind the Asian tigers who, because when you talk about what we have, what should then follow is how it is foreign investment queue to come here. They do queue.
Exactly.
They do. It's not as though they don't want to come here. They do. But that enabling environment that we speak of doesn't quite allow them to. The number of foreign investors who would like to come and invest here are very, very many. Simple fact. Now, the voice that the commercial world, the industrial world, the business world has seems to have dimmed. I'm saying it has dimmed because government policy, if indeed, as we state in theory, it's supposed to be to create an enabling environment, the big question is, how enabling is this environment, and is it actually being created, or is it being stifled? Because if indeed it was being created and you look at the demand, then the issues we keep speaking of would not really exist. The unemployment issue would be seeing a diminishing curve. That's not what we see. When it comes to the issue of even our own revenues, it should be an increase. That's not quite what we see. So there seems to be some incongruence here. There is a demand for people to do business here, but for some reason, we are not taking full advantage of it. What is stopping us?
And maybe just to add, it's one thing to create an environment, it's another thing to make it sustainable. And it's just important to understand if maybe the summit would come with other interventions that would make the environment more sustainable rather than just creating it for the businesses globally.
I couldn't agree more with you, CT and yourself.
Dorice.
Dorcas.
Doris.
Dorice.
Yes. Yeah. Dorcas is the other colleague who is in the other program.
Yeah, fair enough. It's okay.
Doris.
Yes, Doris.
Yes. You've just spoken to my day job as the CEO of Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and us as private sector. This is what keeps us awake at night. This is what we have to keep driving until we get there. And this summit is going to provide an opportunity to have deeper discussions at a much higher and global level on issues to do with policy, issues to do with legislative environment, protocols that need to be adopted at the continental level that can be cascaded to bring down the walls of our borders for us to work together as one market in Africa. But within the country, city, that's the reality of our marketplace. The two sides of a coin that seem to struggle to exist together. We will keep pushing the envelope to a point where the next time we speak, we hope we'll be looking at the successes of the private sector to address some of these issues you've talked about.
You know, key artery to our business is the Nairobi-Malaba Road. Okay? Key. There are 30 police checks. 30. You actually wonder, or do we grow policemen on the roadside?
This is where they flourish.
This is where we plant them, they grow better, they become better. The cost of logistics on this continent is prohibitive. If you compare it with, say, just Europe, the total cost of a product there, if you throw in the logistics, it's around 6 to 8% in Europe. Here, it's 40% plus. Now, again, it's something that must be addressed. True, in this country, there is a definitive and definite effort to improve on those logistics. There's no question about it. We see it. There is. The problem is, we are scratching the surface. We could do a lot better.
And I agree.
Yes.
I agree 100%.
And comparing ourselves to the poorer neighbors, man, if we are doing well, how badly must our neighbors be doing?
We don't want to be the tallest among the pygmies.
No.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it must be much better. Must be much better. Well, look, the summit happens in April, and that's where businesses will then have an opportunity to showcase, what they can do, and then look at opportunities for what business can present itself on the continent. And I'm rooting for Africa trade first before we go anywhere
100%.
else. That's what I'm rooting for, and I hope that becomes, the swan song, even as you go into this. But I want to thank you for being here with us this morning. Ahmed Farah is the CEO of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he's been with our guest this hour. Even as you go, you're going to take a break at some point today. Yeah. You must. And we're going to offer you a cup of Delamere yogurt. And if you look at that, you'll see that it's real pieces of the real ingredients. If you take the strawberry, depending on what CT fancies to give you this morning, you will have real fruit. Or if he gives you the lemon and biscuit, you'll have real biscuit and real lemon in it.
What do you prefer, biscuits or strawberry?
I will take whatever you give me.
Oh, you see, there you go.
We'll have the biscuit.
So, I mean, it's an moment that you have with Delamere when you take your break through the day after being with us this morning.
Terrible.
Asante Sana, thanks for being us. We're going to have a health conversation coming up next at 8 o'clock. It's been a business one this hour. Let's see what happens when we talk health after 8. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Asante Sana. Let me just give you my card, Dorice.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. You might be compelled to pay toll fees on major roads and highways in future as the government pushes proposals that require motorists to pay for the use of certain roads. The new proposals contained in the draft road tolling policy could push up transportation costs for both industries and individual motorists. The proposal also comes against the recent hike in the road maintenance levy to 25 shillings per litre of diesel and super petrol from 18 shillings. But the Ministry of Transport and Roads argues that this is the only viable option to continue investing in new roads and boost their maintenance. The ministry will commence public participation for the proposal from Monday next week to seek stakeholders' views that will inform the final policy paper. A healthcare crisis is looming across the country as the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union issued a 30-day strike notice to the government on Thursday over the welfare of medical interns. This came after Health CS Deborah Barasa hinted at plans to cut the salary of medical interns from 206,000 shillings as stipulated in the CBA to 70,000 shillings. KMPDU, however, condemned Baraza's statement, terming it malicious, backward and shameful. KMPDU Secretary General Dr. Davji Atela demanded that all interns be posted and paid in full as per the existing CBA of 2017.
Can't afford to pay interns this year because of the USAID freeze that happened by Donald Trump. If the USA if the Trump is putting USA first, the government need to put the Kenyans first. Yes. The Kenyans first. If the wages are to be reduced or to be changed, it should not start with the intern doctors. It should be for all. I should start with the presidents, the ministers, and everyone else. That's why we are saying we will not have any discussions that are reducing the wages. We will not entertain any discussions or any negotiations that reduce that bastardize the CBA. We will only have a discussions on when to post the interns, where to post them.
Meanwhile, you may not be able to access health services using SHA in private hospitals countrywide starting Monday next week. Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya chairperson Dr. Brian Lishenga announced a suspension on Thursday, citing unpaid NHIF arrears and government failure to address persistent challenges, including system glitches. Lishenga said 89% of the facilities have reported SHA portal failures and 83% have had serious difficulties in verifying patient eligibility for SHA. He called on the government to settle 30 billion shillings debt in NHIF arrears and revise and streamline the SHA outpatient reimbursement model.
NHIF had liabilities amounting to 5.6 billion under WIBA. These monies, we are aware, and Parliament has noted, that are being paid at the expense of paying for providers. We are aware that there were court claims under NHIF amounting to 16 billion shillings, different claims. We are aware that these claims are being paid using SHA contributions at the expense of paying for care for patients.
President William Ruto's administration continues to be criticized over its decision to allow Sudan's sanctioned paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, to gather at the KICC. It comes after Sudan accused Kenya of violating regional diplomatic principles and breaching pledges made at the highest levels to prevent hostile activities against it on Kenyan soil. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is the latest to criticize the move. Kalonzo, who spoke during the memorial service for historian Professor Bethwell Ogot, said President Ruto had abandoned Kenya's policy of non-interference in other countries' internal affairs.
Professor Ogot rubbed shoulders with presidents then, with secretaries general, with heads of international institutions, and did well for us. Can we say the same today about our foreign policy, when in fact we have lost our prime position as a one country where people can run to because of our policy of non-alignment, our policy, time-tested policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, particularly those within our region?
3 buses have exploded in Bat Yam, south of Tel Aviv, in what Israeli police say is a suspected terror attack. Devices in 2 other buses failed to explode, they said, adding that large police forces were at the scene searching for suspects. The transport minister paused all buses, trains and light rail trains in the country so that checks for explosive devices could be carried out. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Some days just have you feeling, you know the ones. Very few aha moments. Just moments. Maybe even a few Because how can a day this good feel so meh? But then, you realize your moment of escape is a cup of indulgence away. Delamere.
Get lost in rich, creamy, flavorful bliss with every spoonful of Delamere real fruit yogurt. Indulge in the moment.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 7 minutes after 8 and into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday morning, getting towards the end of the week, but having conversations that are just as important as when we started. And CT has been waving the magic wand over the last couple of weeks, and there's a way in which you can make a mortgage happen.
You know, the mortgages are what we say dreams are made of, meaning the dream here is a house. You want to buy a house. And you look at your resources, and in your mind, the resources seem adequate. But then you are not an expert in the process of buying houses. What you do is a wish to buy one. So there are people who actually understand what it takes to get to the point where you can actually have the resources to buy a house. Now, Diamond Trust Bank is saying, we are one of those people. And we're actually one of the very best people at doing this because we have a plan. And our plan is to meet you, talk to you, find out what your financial situation is like. And then we come up with something that A, suits your needs, plus the availability of the resources that you have. But there are details that come into this.
Yes.
Detail number one is it's called information. One, Diamond Trust has branches all over the country. Any of these branches, if you walk into them and ask about the mortgages, you'll be given information. I will tell you what this information is. If you send an email to mortgages@dtbafrica.com, you will also get information. But this is precisely what they're going to tell you. One, whether you are employed, as in you have a salary that is accompanied by some form of a pay slip, whether you are self-employed, meaning you wake up and you employ yourself and others, or you are in the diaspora. This is what you can access. If you have a salary up to 105%, 100%, you pay mortgage, 5% for all the costs of getting this money.
Yes.
Then, if you are in the diaspora, 80%. That's what you can access. Now, the really lovely stuff. The interest rate, if you get a mortgage for 10 years, is 9%. One digit. If you get a mortgage for 25 years, it's 7.95%. It doesn't stop there. There are no hidden charges, none whatsoever. And whatever it is you are told is the interest you will pay, it stays that way. It doesn't move. There's no yo-yo business, no up and down, no
Through
across. It is 9%. And this is possible because DTB have partnered with Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, who are able to get loans that monies that you can pay over a long period of time at a low interest rate. Again, this is information that is available to you. Visit any Diamond Trust Bank branch or email them. mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
Good stuff. Fantastic. I told you I was waving the magic wand, so you want to do that as you start to think about what you want to do into the future with a home. Our conversation takes us, and it would form a number of things. A current conversation that's happening in Kenya, as well as our Healthy Friday conversation for this morning. The Member of Parliament for Endebess is Dr. Pokose, and he is here with us this hour. He also sits as the chair of the Health Committee of the National Assembly. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
Good morning to our listeners.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Karibu sana. Good to have you here again. Many issues up for attention when we look at healthcare in the country and what is currently, taking everybody by storm. But before we get into that, we want to welcome you with today's proverb. CT will give you the proverb, and maybe you can interpret that for us, and then tell us what you think about it.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the Republic of Niger. Earlier on, we were asking ourselves, people who come from Nigeria are called Nigerians. People who come from Kenya are called Kenyans.
Yeah.
Come from Uganda, you're called?
Ugandans.
Okay, so if you come from Niger, what are you called?
Nigerian.
Nigerian.
Yes.
Nigerian.
Yes.
A-I-N-E at the end.
No A.
There's no A?
No.
It's Niger. So it's Nigerian.
So it's Nigerien. If
you put an A, it's Nigeria.
Nigerian for Nigeria.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then so Nigerian for Niger.
Exactly.
Very good. See, now I've got it. I'm a bit slow sometimes.
It needed one Dr. Robert because to come in.
But I get it. I've now got it.
Okay.
Now the proverb. No matter how good you are to a goat, it will still eat your yam. No matter how good you are to a goat, dress it up, give it a hat, it will still eat your yam.
To translate it means that, literally when you look at it, it means the food for the goats is a yam.
It is.
So it doesn't matter what you give it else that is not food for it. Then it has to eat the yam.
Oh. Nice.
The goat knows what it likes. It knows what is good for you. Can just go around thinking you're going to give the goat fish.
Whatever you give it. Very nice.
That's great. Great to look at. So, Dr. Pokose, we're going into. You straddle the member of parliament for Endebess, but also in the committees, the chair of the Health Committee of the National Assembly.
Yes.
And that forms information for us as we have this conversation this morning. Over the last few weeks, there has been furor in terms of what's happening with healthcare in the country. And this is taking on different personas, whereby folks are able or not able to access what they need in terms of payment when they go to hospital. And I've said that when you have shirts going through a factory, through the chain, that if you see one shirt that doesn't have a button, the rest of the shirt is fine, but there's not one button. What is it called? It's called a reject. So the shirt in its entirety is not working. It is removed.
Yes.
So you can't say that this shirt is kind of okay. No, it doesn't meet the mark. So you're not going to put it with the rest in terms of those that are working. So if some people can access health care in terms of payment and some people can't, then we say that the thing as we look at it is not working and that there's a problem here. If we look at another aspect of it, just yesterday we've seen that doctors are going to tell us, well, you know what, we are not going to do this. We're going to go on strike. If you can more than halve the amount of money that is going to be paid to intern doctors, then we have a problem. So it looks as though there are many different aspects of the healthcare system in the country that seem to be hobbling at best. And our question very simply is, what's going on?
Thank you. The analogy which you've given does not apply in health, unfortunately, because when somebody is sick, do you treat that person or you say that person be allowed to die? Yeah, because that looks like somebody who has just a shirt with one pattern which is not working, and therefore somebody is admitted to the hospital. He is sick. It is a process. Healing is a process.
Yeah.
And therefore, healthcare should also be seen as a process. It is not a one-off thing that you can fix it and it just works that way. So there are several factors when it comes to healthcare. You are talking of health products and technologies. You are talking of the human resource. You are talking of what kind of infrastructure you put in place. The Kenyan healthcare system, the first call of majority of Kenyans is the public institutions. 65% go to public institutions for their treatment. And therefore, if we get right what is ailing our public sector, then we should be able to fix our healthcare system. And that is what the government has tried. It has been a process, even when we got independence, our founding fathers, they mentioned three things: education, health, and poverty as critical issues. And we've been trying to fix all these things since independence. And therefore, you cannot just now say that with the new developments that have come into place, then the government is failing. No, it's not true. When you look at our healthcare system as we speak today, when this government came into place, they realized that governments that have been there have been trying to fix the system. But without laws in place, then things will not be able to work. So they identified 4 laws. Former President Mwai Kibaki, when he was the Minister for Health, he introduced what we call Facility Improvement Fund. This Facility Improvement Fund, subsequently, as time went by, it was scrapped when we moved into devolution. But counties like Makueni under Professor Kifuda Kibwana, they developed that, and they realized that this was something that was good, and we should be able to get it back. Under the Kenya Kwanza administration, they came up with 4 laws. One of them is the FIF law. The second one is the Digital Health Law, Social Health Insurance Law, and the Primary Health Care Law. All these laws have come into play to try and fix our healthcare system. Now, as we do our budgeting, because that is where now Parliament comes in, in the first place when we came in, we had post-COVID, which had brought down healthcare all over the world, had brought down economies all over the world. So the first thing was, how do we start from where COVID left us? Then subsequently, as we came up with these laws, one of the areas that had been severely abused was the NHIF. because even when you look at the NHIF, when audit was done in terms of the number of people who are registered, NHIF initially had about 12 million registered clients. But when this was connected to the Kenya National Registration Bureau, out of that 12 million, about 3 million were found not to coexist. And yet, we've been paying money for these people. They've been going to the hospitals, they've been treated, and claims have been put. 3 million Kenyans who don't exist. So, with this now system of fixing that, it means after cleaning up, you have about 9 million who have been transitioned into the social health authority.
Authority, yes.
Okay. Plus the other ones now who have been registered. But unfortunately, you'll find that only 4 million of these are people who have formal employment. Now, the next step that the social health authority needs to move into is how do you bring those who are in the informal sector to contribute. But at the same time, what has happened is that in our budgeting system, we've put money for emergency, critical, and chronic illness fund.
Yes.
Which was in the current budget for this financial year, 2.1 billion. Then we put money in our primary healthcare fund, which is 4 billion. When we started rolling down this program in October, up to January, for the emergency, chronic, and critical illness fund, what has been operationalized is when a patient gets a severe injury or gets a heart failure, heart attack, or even head trauma or stroke, this patient is taken to the hospital. And once the patient is taken to the hospital, stabilization, resuscitation, and stabilization is done. And within that 24 hours, hospitals are supposed to make claims. From the emergency, critical, and chronic illness fund, the claims that have come into SHA is only 21 million out of the 2.1 billion. So meaning the money is still there.
Is it though?
Yes.
Because we did hear that, we did hear directly from the Director of Health, Dr. Amoth, that they needed more, and because this is now critical illness that is taken care of by SHA. But if you look at the other levels, it was very clear that they needed more people to enter into the system in order to then be able to offer the care. So it seems that on that end then, that there is a problem, that there's not enough funds, because the more people come in and pay premiums, that's now we use that money to take care of it at that level.
No, for this emergency, chronic, and critical illness, it is not the contribution.
No,
this is exchequer funded.
I understand that.
So when what the exchequer has funded is 2 billion.
I understand.
But what the Kenyans have utilized or the claims that have come from hospitals is only 21 million.
Yes.
Look at the primary health care fund. Up to now, the claims that have been paid is 1.3 billion out of the 4 billion. Yeah? Meaning we still have money there that can take us up to the close of the financial year. But what has the government also done? Because maybe now as Kenyans embrace this, because initially we've had people resisting. And the resistance that is coming mainly is not even from the public facilities. The biggest resistance is from the private healthcare providers. And that is why they have even gone further into this week and they're trying to issue a strike that if we are not paid the money that is
30 billion in arrears. They claim 30 million in arrears.
That 30 billion, unfortunately, is not owed to only private hospitals. That 30 billion, out of that 30 billion that is owed, you have close to almost 25 billion, which is owed from the government.
I'm sorry, please clarify that.
You have 30 billion. Out of this 30 billion, you have government institutions that have made that are owed by SHA, by NHIF. These government institutions like Moi Teaching and Referral, which is owed about 1.7 billion. Kenyatta National Hospital is owed about almost 2 billion. Kenyatta Teaching Referral Research Hospital is owed about almost 1.5 billion. So it is not only private many hospitals. And again, even this money, when you look at what is owed to NHIF, you have government institutions. We have WIPA, the Workman's Compensation.
Yes.
That it was being administered by NHIF with co-insurance that was sourced. The Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Public Service, the public service or public service workers, they have not remitted that money to NHIF so that NHIF can pay for those services.
NHIF at that time.
Pardon?
NHIF at that time.
NHIF at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is money which is supposed to come from Treasury. Go to NHIF, then NHIF can pay.
So let me ask you then, why doesn't that money leave Treasury and go to pay the bills that it's supposed to pay? Let's just say that 5 billion shillings is what is owed to private hospitals. So if somebody walks into a private hospital today and is trying to get treatment and they say, well, we're not able to offer 1, 2, 3 because, we don't have a bill paid, could be the scenario. But what's the reason why these monies are not being paid to the facilities that they're owed?
And just to add, they're arguing then that the decisions that have been made this far is because of months of failed engagements, unfulfilled promises, and growing financial distress. So there are certain arrangements that are being made, conversations that are not being honored. That's according to those who are, sharing their grievances.
That might be the case. Because you have government obligations, maybe paying debts and all that. But gradually, the government has been paying. From the information we get it from NHIF and the ministry. They've been paying. They might not have paid all the amount that is outstanding.
Is it realistic? Is it realistic what is being paid to be able to handle what has to be handled at the time? Because this is a matter of life and death.
It is realistic.
Okay.
But what I also want to add is that from these other services which they are providing, because now under the new scheme of SHA, we have money that is coming from SHIF. There is no, as when we made the SHA during the budget policy statement 2 days ago, that is on, today is Friday, that is on Wednesday. They told us that there is all the claims that are of services which have been rendered as per for SHIF. All of them are being processed and there is no outstanding. For primary health care, they've paid 1.3 billion and all that is coming is being processed. Then for emergency, chronic and critical illness, they paid 21 million because that is what has been claimed. And they still have more than 1 billion in their account. If services are offered, then they should be able to claim. In the current supplementary budget, because we are saying, should the services be absorbed, then we also, maybe this money might not be enough. Because the way government does budgeting is that you do an annual budget. Then after the annual budget, under the unforeseen circumstances, then you can do a supplementary. Supplementary 1 was done. We are now in the process. Supplementary 2 has been tabled in Parliament and we'll be discussing it on this week on Thursday.
Next week?
Next week on Thursday. So under supplementary budget 2, we've provided money for emergency, chronic and critical illness. We've provided money for primary health care fund. People for SHIF, there are contributions which people are making. And for any service that is being offered, then that is being paid. As far as the bending bills on NHIF, the committee is having a retreat next weekend on Friday and Saturday. We want NHIF to present to us all the bending bills. And we wanted them to divide these bending bills into public and government and public and private. Once they've divided into private, we also want to look at how long have these bills been bending, because they must give a date. This amount of money is bending, and this is when they are paid. Because unfortunately, we realize that public facilities are not being paid promptly. It is only private facilities that are being paid promptly. Yet majority of Kenyans, 65%, are going to public.
Okay.
What I also want to add is that what the government has also realized is that we have challenges in terms of county facilities, where county hospitals, that is the level 2 and level 3, are not providing adequate service because of funding. They do not have enough drugs, they do not have enough equipment, and they do not have enough personnel. So what has the national government done? The national government has negotiated with the World Bank, and the World Bank has given us a grant. And in this grant, we are going to give, they are going to give the initial health products and technologies to all our level 2 and level 3. They are also going to equip all level 2 and level 3. Then now that they have their, then we'll also be able, what the county governments have also delayed in paying back KEMSA. And because of this delay in paying back KEMSA, and this they have attributed to delays in disbursements from the national government on county revenue. Now that the counties are not getting their money in time, so that is the reason why they have explained that they are not able to meet their obligations for KEMSA. And this is making KEMSA not to be able to provide medication in time, such that they you have stockouts within the counties. Now, with this support from the World Bank, we also, as the national government, we are going to recapitalize KEMSA with about 2 billion. And under the current supplementary 2, we've provided 1.5 billion. This is going to recapitalize KEMSA, so that KEMSA now will have enough medication when the level 6, level 5, and some of level 4 makes their orders now, then there's enough medication for them to be able to disperse.
Right.
And then they can now be able to also take time now to recover their money from the county governments.
Okay.
And then when we provide, under this World Bank program, once the health center, that is dispensary and health centers, and some of level 4 facilities are provided with health products and technologies, with equipment and even support in terms of training. Then what it means is that our public health facilities will now be maximally operational.
Okay.
And because they have the FIF account, then whatever they generate, they can be able to
it goes back into the hospital essentially, or back into the facility,
and be able to provide services.
The Honourable Dr. Robert Pokose is our guest this hour, NWS MP, as well as the chair of the National Assembly Health Committee. Having that conversation as our Healthy Friday conversation today. Healthcare in the country, is it balanced? 500,000 to 10 million shillings is the inpatient cover that you get under the senior medical cover with Jubilee Insurance. Looking at premiums of an average of 150,000 shillings per year, 50,000 to 200,000 shillings in outpatient limits, and it covers chronic illness, cancer, home-based care, as well as drug delivery and long-term conditions. Extensive cover for newly diagnosed and chronic conditions, psychiatric, congenital issues, cancer treatment, and related conditions. It's one of the covers under the LIPA Pole program. So you don't have to pay everything up front. You start to pay a little bit and you have access to this. You want to find out more information about this, go to www.jubileeinsurance.com, or you can call 0709 949 000 or send the text HEALTH to 40643.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 18 and 17, and sunny in Nakuru with 14 and sunny conditions into Nyeri. 21 and the sun is up in Eldoret, while Mombasa is sunny at 28. Malindi is also sunny at 28. It's sunny at 23 looking into Kisumu, while at 22 we'll see sunny conditions through Friday in Kakamega. Kampala is sunny at 22 and Dar es Salaam at 28 is partly sunny. Johannesburg at 8 is sunny after 3 now days of rain. We're looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 28 and 15 and sunny in Addis Ababa. Lagos is cloudy at 28 going to highs of 33 and Kinshasa at 25 mostly cloudy going to highs of 33.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Okay, so at 26 minutes to 9 o'clock, looking at this conversation that we're having this morning with the chair of the Health Committee in the National Assembly, Dr. Robert Pokose, and now saying, are we comfortable with the way the system is currently? So is it working as it was envisioned to from when it was launched? We're talking now about Taifa Care. And then, hoping that it can improve, or are we comfortable the way in which it's being delivered?
That's a very difficult question to say, because you know, when from where I sit as a doctor, you might find that you have people who have gone to a health facility and being sick and expecting to get services, and you are not able to get the services you expected. So to say that you are comfortable, that person will not be comfortable because he went to a health facility and did not get the services.
Exactly.
What is happening is that we have teething problems within the implementation of this program. And one of the biggest challenges is information. SHA has not done well in terms of informing the public on what is the package. You know, like now when you speak about Jubilee, you are giving that this is the package that Jubilee is giving for outpatient, for inpatient, and that kind of thing. SHA has not done well in terms of disseminating the knowledge to the public, so that the public are aware that when I go to level 2 facility, this is what I expect.
Yeah.
When I go to level 3 facility, this is what I expect. And then, and also, in terms of bringing those who are in the informal sector into registering and paying, so that you find that somebody who is in the informal sector will only want to register for the program for SHA or SHIF when he is sick or the relative is sick.
Yes.
Yeah, that is when they want to register, not realizing that you don't have to wait to be sick to register, because like just the way we take insurance of our vehicles, you don't wait to knock somebody's car so that you take the insurance. You put on your insurance and continue driving and drive safely to make sure that the road is safe for everybody. Yeah. And therefore, even for us in healthcare, you don't wish to be sick.
Right.
Nobody wishes to be sick. Nobody wants to be sick. But it is important that we pay our premiums. You take the insurance, and therefore, even people who are in the informal sector, it's important that you make your contribution to SHA. And when it comes to even providing the correct information, because we are doing the means testing, please provide the correct information. Don't cheat, because you will find that people who are even able are now lying not to, so that you pay less. It's not right. Yeah.
All right.
Pay what you really can afford. Then let those who are not able to pay be paid for, even by the government, so that because we have indigents who cannot be able to afford, and the government has a provision that those who are not able to pay, the government will pay for them, and that way we can be able to provide health care for everybody.
Allow me to interrogate.
Yes.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because he's talked about the role of the patient and the government, and this major point of contention, maybe just for clarity. And we're glad that you're here, so I could engage you in the SHA's outpatient reimbursement. The doctors are claiming that, like the word I used, unrealistic, that the government would, for every patient in a month, pay 75 shillings. Is it 75 shillings, Dr. for every patient monthly for this particular outpatient reimbursement, and as far as SHA is concerned?
The outpatient reimbursement is a capitation.
Okay.
So that when you are in level 2, level 3, level 4 facility, or up to even level 5, there is what we call the capitation. Capitation means you have clients who are attached to this facility.
Okay.
Yeah. And these clients are the ones who can choose to come into that facility through the mapping which they have done.
Yes.
They've done a mapping, and for facility, let's say facility A, they have allocated a certain number of patients. This number of patients, if they become sick, they can go to that facility.
Okay.
But the good thing with the current SHA system is that you don't have to limit yourself to only that facility. You can still seek because you can fall sick. If the facility which you are supposed to be, which you are capitated to,
okay,
is in Nairobi, and you fall sick in Mombasa, you can still go to Mombasa and you'll be treated. But now, when they give this capitation, it doesn't mean that all those people who have been capitated to this facility will be sick. Yeah.
But how much is it?
I wouldn't
per
be...
patient. Is it? I'm just want you to clarify if it's the 75
I think
shillings.
It's 75 shillings per patient.
Per patient?
Yes.
Every month?
Every month. But not all those patients will be sick.
What I wanted to ask is this.
I don't know whether you understand how capitation works. Capitation is that if you have, let's say, facility, this is my facility, I'm the doctor for facility A. I've been allocated 1,000 clients.
Okay.
If all those 1,000 clients fall sick, then I'll treat all of them. But you'll find that out of the 1,000 that you've been given, maybe 20 or 50 might come for treatment. The rest might not come for treatment. Meaning that money that was to treat the other ones, that is not utilized.
Because they're arguing that you're putting these patients at risk, and the hospitals are now forced to cut down on some of their expenses, some medicines they're supposed to give them, and that it's a little lower than what is expected. Even though you're arguing that not all of them will get sick, but this is what the doctors are saying, especially the ones that have now said you owe them.
Maybe they're offering good service that many clients are flocking there.
Yeah,
and because and they expected maybe fewer clients to come.
It's the same. There is a discipline called actuarism.
Yes.
When you pool resources, you figure out what it is that would be, perhaps in this case, a minimum that you need to contribute to that pool.
Yes.
It's the same principle of insurance.
Indeed. Not everybody's going to get sick or have an accident on the
Yes. And that's, and if you say, for instance, the matatu industry, because of the way they go about their business, they were considered a very high risk for the insurance business.
Right.
The reason is because what they pay doesn't cater for the claims that they eventually have.
Yes.
So, again, doctors are talking about what they're experiencing.
Yes, what they're experiencing.
Yes, but there is a much larger picture to this. When these figures are arrived at, they are not random. No. Somebody goes into the process of thinking about it, and with a certain expectations and certain anticipations that a certain number of people will contribute to this. If that number doesn't contribute, and even the government, when they do that, they look at the figures and figure, why am I explaining government things?
It's a conversation.
But this knowledge is shared.
Yes, it's actually public knowledge.
Yes.
What I want to ask two questions. One, the health committee that you belong to, what exactly do you people do? What's your function?
The health committee works under our standing orders of parliament.
Yes.
And under standing order 216, we look at we oversight the ministry and its sagas in terms of investigating what they are doing, looking at their programs, We can also, like now today, we're going to Kenyatta National Hospital, where a patient was apparently murdered in the hospital, in the ward. So we'll try and investigate what really happened, what systems failed this hospital that this is happening, and because a patient, you've taken your patient to a hospital and you expect that patient that the security must be provided.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a level 6 hospital.
Yes, a level 6 hospital.
Yes. Easily the largest one in the
Republic.
country.
Yes, so it should be of public concern to Kenyans. What happened? We also provide. We do the quarterly reports for the financial expenditure for our ministries. We also look at their budget, and when they present their budget to us, we can amend that budget, either reallocate some money to other where we think it's more needy than the other one, and that kind of thing.
You actually segued into what my second question was going to be. When you look at the budget for health, how much money do you allocate for communication?
It is the ministry that must be able to request. As we speak today, SHA requested for 350 million for communication, and they will be allocated. The ceiling for SHA for expenditure is 7%. Now, they cannot spend that 350 because they have other obligations at the same time. What we've advised them is that you can spend that 350 gradually.
Over what period of time?
Because you have to start. You have to stick to the limit, the ceiling of 7%.
Okay.
So they have to look for a formula. If you want to spend it over 3 months, then you don't have to get all the 350 at a go.
See, the reason I'm asking this question.
Yes.
The problems that we seem to have, not just with the health ministry, but with the very many government ministries, is this subject, touchy, prickly subject of communication.
Yes.
Okay? And a lot of the times when you dig and figure out, the budget allocation for communication is almost non-existent. If it exists,
it exists.
Yes, but statistically it's irrelevant. Because if you look at what needs to be done and then you look at the budget, you wonder, so how does this work exactly? What are they going to do with this? Because you have a ministry, the ministry is full of so many departments. The number of things they need to do. Okay, we're looking at SHA now.
But 350 million is not little money.
It is little money.
For communication?
For communication.
It is little money. It is very little money.
Especially since we're looking at issues when folks in Kenya today are complaining about SHA not working. It is hinged on communication, not necessarily the brick and mortar of what's happening within the system. We're not talking about will you get a bed and will you be treated and will you... No. We're talking about the issues that nobody told me I was supposed to go. Case in point, the gentleman who was in Mombasa and he went to Coast General Hospital and he was not supposed to actually report there for the issue that he had. Was he then told that he was supposed to then go to the hospital in Tuda, which was a level 3, to get something done? It was not a matter of will we treat you. It was a matter of you're in the wrong place because of 1, 2, 3. Now, if that information is being shared large scale, if everybody knows that in this case, if I have a headache and I want to see a doctor, I need to present myself to 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or if I have 1, 2, I can only go to 5 and 6 if I have been to 3 and 4 and I have been referred by a doctor. So what do people do? They go to Coast General. Somebody tells them, no, you're not supposed to be here because of 1, 2, 3. What do? They go home because they don't know. So the majority of the issues that we are seeing today are hinged on communication. That communication, which by your own admission has not happened.
Yeah.
So why not then really think about putting some serious grease behind making sure that people know what they need to know? Because if I don't get the information that I need, as far as I'm concerned, the thing is not working.
And
also it's not just communications to the common mwananchi, because there is a civilian, but even health practitioners or professionals, those people who are receiving the people, some of them don't even have any idea how the system works. So who then is going to guide the systems to actually come to life? Because there's this point you go and the person, you'll hear a leader say, well, it is not a matter of the money's in there or you're in the wrong facility. The person attending to you all right, did not have the information. Now, such things are really making this look like it is not working.
You know, you are a medical doctor.
Yes.
One of the things that you are trained in, what you call bedside manners. I was trained as a teacher. And one of the things that we were taught when you're teaching is something we call set induction. Before you begin talking on a topic, I used to teach the English language.
Yes.
And you want to talk about vowels. You don't say, okay, today we're learning vowels. You have a discussion about vowels and people participate without really realizing. Then you say, you see, as you talk about this is what we call vowels. And then people go, oh, okay?
Yeah.
Same. In medicine, you don't just go and say,
I'm going to chop off your
looking
leg.
at you're likely going to die.
You can't say that. You must
there's a
give hope to the patient.
there's a process. There's a process that you follow so that when the information arrives at the patient.
Yes.
I remember in the advent when HIV was a terror disease, people had to be counseled on how it is you pass on that information.
Yes.
Because you could see the problem. It is the same principle that I am saying when it comes to introducing a system that is new.
Yes.
Even as you work on it, as you plan, that journey needs to be walked. You need the public to walk with you. It's a journey. And you're going to be journeying for a long time. The public needs to walk with you throughout. And that walking is the communication that we're talking about.
Yes.
So that at every stage you've been told there's this. Do you know the time when we were changing our fiduciary issue? The notes, the central bank.
Yes.
Do you remember that communication?
Yes.
My friend, even if you didn't know, you would know.
Yes.
Yeah. Step by step, and the days until the final day. And even after that, you're told, okay, if you've missed this is what you do. Something as critical as healthcare requires more details, concerted and consistent. That is really it. And since that committee has say as to how much money goes into it, the communication budget becomes critical, because when people know and understand, they even know that I can go to this place so that I can prevent this thing that could be a problem. I don't have to wait until it's almost falling off before I now go to this level. That would actually be a far more cost-effective way of getting the Kenyans to understand how to approach healthcare, as opposed to saying, I'm not sick enough to go to hospital. No. Understanding that healthcare doesn't have to do with you feeling unwell.
Yes.
Now, that's communication, Daktari. And you happen to be the chair of a committee that is crucial, absolutely pivotal in getting some of these things done.
Daktari, your meeting next week, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has given his word and is given the health ministry officials until the end of this month, I'm looking at about 7 days, to resolve the SHA issues before launching a nationwide registration campaign. 7 days. 7 days, and it has to work. But you see, this thing was already, guys have been registering.
Yes.
And now, all of a sudden, at the heart of it, things are, neither here nor there. If I put it in the best way a common man should feel right now. And now here you have the second in command saying you have 7 days, put things in order.
7 days might not be achievable. Because, you, as you rightly put it, Muga here says, it has to be continuous, consistent, and it has to be seen to be done. So I think maybe within that 7 days is for them to make sure that things are properly put in order.
But the Kenyans are getting sick within the 7 days.
We have to, this has to be a continuous process, to me, the way I look at it. That we have to look and even audit ourselves, what is it that we are not doing rightly. And maybe now that, when now you say 350 million is not, is very little money, you are experts in communication. Yeah, I'm a doctor. So I'm hearing from the experts, and that also gives me information in such a way that when they present now their budget and say, we want this much, then I will not say that is too much.
Some questions coming from, folks who are listening in on the show this morning, and one of them being, still going to the previous issue of why having moved from NHIF to SHA, that one of the big issues was the informal sector and how they've been captured here to ensure that they can then now go and get the medical care that they need. Not enough is being collected from the informal sector.
Yeah, no,
how is that going? And how is that going to be taken care of moving forward?
We've asked SHA to come up with a plan on how this can be done, and look at what is it that why and the reason is why is the informal sector only paying when they are sick? Yeah, people need to pay continuously and contribute and realize the importance of this. But there must be something that will make these people to be able to contribute into this fund. And I think that is where issues of communication will come in. Issues of, are there even any incentives for people to continuously contribute? Is there something that they can be able to do to motivate them such that they are able to pay?
Okay.
So I think for me, I don't have to, I'll not be able to, I'll still be asking the same questions to SHA. Because,
yeah.
Yeah.
So then looking at it still from an oversight role, because this is the seat that you straddle in the National Assembly, and that to push for oversight beyond the legislation where you say, okay, spend this money, representation where you say, okay, so what has happened for people here, is that to say, okay, there are different moving parts to the whole healthcare system. We can talk about the fund and we can talk about what ensures that you can go to hospital. Healthcare will cover you in terms of money and care. But then look at the other moving parts. Just the other day, yesterday, medical workers have said, you know what, this is not working. And from what we've been told, interns were going to earn a certain amount of money. That's been slashed by more than 50% to be enacted come July. How do you work? Because one of these moving parts is not going to allow this vehicle of healthcare move along. So if a one wheel is not there, you're not going to say a 4 or 3-wheeled vehicle unless it's tuk-tuk. But in this case, we're saying it's a 4-wheeled vehicle. It's supposed to be moving. One wheel, because healthcare workers are saying we have a problem. So the whole thing then doesn't move properly. How do you deal with those moving parts? Where does this oversight role say, okay, come on, ministry, you guys were supposed to have sorted this out. It's not working. How do you deal with issues like that?
Issues about salaries is an issue between the employer and the employee. And for this case in the public sector, we have the SRC that sets the salaries and allowances for every institution. The initial payment for interns was a negotiated figure. And at that time, it was based on the number of interns. When I went to medical school in 1990, we were in a class of 100. Then subsequently, the classes have increased. As we speak today, you'll find that you have a class of 500 to 600 students in one university. When we were 100 at University of Nairobi, the ones who are training at Moi University were 50, because Moi University was that time just starting. So they would not be able to be allowed to take more students. So in the whole country, we were about 150. Right now, you are talking of 3,000 students graduating, doctors graduating every year. So meaning the numbers have gone up. Now, SRC having looked at that this is not sustainable. So they worked on a figure which was given to the ministry, and that was 70 for medical officers. Then for nursing students, they came to around 50,000, and also clinical officers, clinical medicine. This figure was not agreeable to the interns, and that's why they went on strike and ended up negotiating. They also went to court in Eldoret. And when they went to court, I think that has not been resolved. Because the matter, I think, is still in court. It's not been resolved. And therefore, even when you issue now another strike notice saying we will intend to go on strike, will the government be able to pay this much?
The government
that will
arranged
be
it in the
a
first
negotiation.
place. Yeah.
That will be a negotiation between the union and the government.
It was an agreement in the very beginning. So it's a matter of ability. Signed.
That was a CPA.
In a CBA.
Yes. In a CPA that was signed.
Yes.
And there is a case which is in court challenging whether CPAs lapse after what period.
Really? Well, they come in batches of. We're in the current
because
CPA.
The current CPA, the CPA that was negotiated at that time, it lapsed.
And one could also say that within that time, even if it did lapse, the things that you were supposed to do within the term of that CBA was actually not done. Do we now say that because the time has lapsed, you didn't do what you're supposed to do?
And that is why they have gone to court.
It must be honored.
To seek I think they went to the Supreme Court to seek what is the opinion, the judicial opinion as to whether CPA, whatever that had not been implemented at that time, can still be implemented. Because that does not only affect the healthcare, it affects our workers within the country.
This discussion is completely misplaced. WHO ratio of doctor to patient is around 1 to 1,000.
Yes.
The Kenyan one ranges, depending on who you are, 17,000, 15,000, 1 to 17,000, 15,000. We have a clear shortage.
And it's a problem.
That is true.
And that is why we produce it. Even if we employed all these things, we would still have a shortage. Anyway, our time is up.
Time is up.
So I will leave it there.
That's very good to continue with these conversations, but there are serious, deep-fissured issues that need to be discussed as we continue looking into this, and we welcome you to come again and do that with us as you continue the roles of oversight. Member of Parliament for Endebess constituency, as well as the chair of the Health Committee in the National Assembly, Dr. Robert Pukuse has been our guest this hour. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Asante sana, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Western Kenya has the highest prevalence of alcohol use in the country, according to the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Nakada representative in Trans Nzoia County, Tracy Mwangi, says a crackdown is underway in the region to close down bars and other liquor dispensing outlets located near schools.
According to our 2022 survey, which was a national study, the Western region actually ranks number 1 in terms of alcohol use. And part of what we are doing, in fact, with the security and the Ngao officers is to identify those outlets that could be near school. You recognize that the function for licensing alcohol outlets was devolved to the county governments. And therefore, we are trying to complement each other because sometimes the counties view this as a revenue avenue for them. However, we also want to look at it from a public health perspective, where we also want to take care of the health of our communities so that we do not have a situation where we are having more outlets selling alcohol than even shops and restaurants around.
For his part, the County Commissioner Gideon Oyagi has emphasized the government's commitment to tackling drug abuse, particularly among the youth.
The presence of substance abuse and alcoholism affects security in the county. Most of our youth are now so much in alcoholism and drug abuse. We have seen cases of deterioration of the health of our youth. So it is our business to ensure that we support our youth to engage in productive activities. We want now, moving forward, to ensure that we enhance our collaboration as a way of raising resources and creating synergy in ensuring that we have a free alcoholic drinks and substance abuse society.
Senate Speaker Amason Kingi's father, Mzee Kingi Mwarua, will be laid to rest today. The funeral service is being held at Kamale Primary School in Kilifi County. This comes a day after family and friends held a memorial service at Mzee Kingi's homestead in Kamale village. Mzee Kingi passed away on February the 9th while receiving treatment at a Ombaso hospital. His family eulogized him as a man of wisdom, kindness, and unwavering strength. Parents with children in public secondary schools may soon face increased financial strain as the government plans to further cut funding. The move could lead to school heads raising fees to bridge the funding shortfall. Schools will receive 21 billion shillings less than what is needed to provide capitation under the Free Day Secondary Education Program. Under this program, each secondary school student is supposed to receive 22,244 shillings, and to support this, the Ministry of Education says it requires 76 billion shillings. However, the government has only allocated 54 billion shillings in the budget estimate, meaning that over 980,000 students may miss out on capitation. There is confusion as to whether Sudan's sanctioned paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, will announce a parallel government of Sudan today here in Nairobi. On Thursday, the RSF cancelled a press conference where they were expected to announce what their deputy leader, Major General Abdul Rashim, described as a peace government. The RSF and the Sudan Founding Alliance announced that the press conference had been postponed to a later date, yet to be communicated. This even comes as President William Ruto's administration continues to be criticized for supporting the RSF, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs stating that the move aligns with Kenya's principles of mediation. But Sudan has accused Kenya of violating regional diplomatic principles and breaching pledges made at the highest levels to prevent hostile activities against it on Kenyan soil. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has also criticized the move, saying President Ruto has abandoned Kenya's policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries.
Professor Okoh rubbed shoulders with presidents then, with secretaries general, with heads of international institutions, and did well for us. Can we say the same today about our foreign policy, when in fact we have lost our prime position as a one country where people can run to because of our policy of non-alignment, our policy, time-tested policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, particularly those within our region?
Kalonzo speaking on Thursday during the memorial service for historian Professor Bethwell Agot. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamir.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform. Better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions. Global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner. Medical emergencies don't wait for payday, so why should you? Picture this. You or a loved one falls sick. The hospital bill, sky high. The stress, overwhelming. But with Jubilee Health Insurance, you don't have to panic. Affordable health covers from just 200 shillings per month. Lipa pole pole. Get covered now. Pay in easy installments. Access to over 800 hospitals plus telemedicine and free drug delivery. SMS Health to 40643. Call 0709 949 000 or visit www.jubileeinsurance.com. Jubilee Health Insurance. Your health, your peace of mind.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And as we get into the final hour of conversation for this week, just some breaking news that's reaching us this morning is that former IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati has passed on, and that happened this morning. More details to be shared, but just as a repetition to that, the former IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati dies, and that was this morning. We do know that he was in hospital with after a short illness. He was receiving treatment and he died this morning. More details we'll share as we go along, as we get them. Getting into conversations for this hour, even with that breaking news, we will share more information about that. All right. We've been having conversations about certain things happening and how you can make business work for you. Verto is a platform whereby businesses, small, medium, and large, are able to have seamless transactions. Most times businesses worry, okay, so how are we going to be able to make this payment? How can we do it from country to country? How can we do it when different currencies are being used? Well, Verto says, get on our platform and we can actually make it happen. So you can transact, you can pay. You don't have to worry about how long it's going to take. You don't have to worry about whether there'll be hidden charges. You also don't have to worry about whether you'll be charged exorbitantly. VertoFX says get onto our platform. That's on www.vertofx.com. Find out how you can make these payments happen, how you can continue with business and have seamless interactions. They even share information with you on how you can get in touch with your suppliers. VertoFX for businesses is the platform that you need to be on today. Get onto that website, find out information, and get onboarded to continue with your business. And then when you make the money, CT, you can buy a house.
Actually, you can. That is, of course, if you want a house.
Okay.
But if you think a house is beyond your reach, well, let's tell you, the Diamond Trust is saying it isn't. And they know it isn't because they have tailor-made processes that enable you to locate, find a house that suits your need, but also matches the size of your pocket. Okay? But there are details that you need to consider. One, there's the interest rate that you will be charged. It is a consistent 9% for a 10-year mortgage. It is 9.75 for a 25-year mortgage. I was about to say 25-year-old. 25-year mortgage. There are no hidden charges. And if you pay ahead of the schedule, there are no penalties. But in addition to this, Diamond Trust guarantees that so long as you go to them and you have this discussion. And how do you do this? You either visit any Diamond Trust branch or you email mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
I like the buffering. But
yes, all these things. You have to take a deep breath before you say some of these important things. These things are made possible. And Diamond Trust is saying, look, come, let's have a chat. Whether you're employed, whether you're self-employed, whether you're in the diaspora. If you are employed, you can get up to 105%. If you're in the diaspora, up to 80% of the mortgage. So please, let's begin the journey and see how it progresses, shall we?
Let's go. Let's go and do it. And then remembering that because of the 1 million people that get into the job market every year, some of those don't have the skills that they need. KCB Foundation saw that gap and they said, you know what? How about we give you a 6 months training? We give you a 6 months training. You come out on the other end of it with the skills that you need. And then we're going to tool you and then also give you a little bit of a loan if you're starting your own business, or connect you with a job that's going to see you use those skills in that particular market. It's the 2GRG program under the KCB Foundation. And so far, 155,000 young people have been trained. It's 267 million shillings in loans that have been given. And people are actually able to now make the connect between the skills that they have and the opportunities that present themselves for work in this country. The 2GRG program has been in existence for some time, training youth between the ages of 18 and 35, and it keeps going. Plug into it. Find out information. Go to www.kcbgroup.com/foundation today. We've talked about work, we've talked about employment, we've talked about business, and where you work matters, what you do matters, forms the basis for our conversation this hour. We're talking with our guest who's already in the studio. Frida Mwangi is the Deputy General Secretary at the Kenya Union of Gig Workers. I want to say gig, maybe she's going to say it's GIG, but I say gig, and she'll explain that to us. We'll be looking at working from home, also something else that seems to have, picked up a lot of steam as we've gone along. But let me just say, welcome to you, Frida, and good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning, and I'm glad to be here.
Karibu sana. Let's welcome you with today's proverb. CT is in a different African country every week. He'll let you know what that proverb is, and then you can tell us how you would translate that.
Yes, we are in the country of Niger. I'm told the people of Niger are called Nigerians.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to punctuate it just to ensure that I get it right. It's a wonderful country. Western Africa is largest by landmass. However, 80% of that country is desert, the Sahara Desert. But there is a lovely river that traverses that country. Goes even into Nigeria. The Niger River. It's one of the many, many rivers we have on this continent that traverse and connect countries. You are talking about the Chari River that flows through Central African Republic, Chad, and Cameroon. The one we know is the Nile River. Look at where it starts and where it gets up to Egypt. There's the Limpopo. There's the Zambezi. There's the Congo River. My goodness. We said in the course of the week that these rivers are the true Pan-Africanists because they connect all these countries together. Okay. The proverb. No matter how good you are to a goat, it will still eat your yam.
Okay. That's interesting. But I think in my words, I would interpret that to mean that it doesn't matter what you do. There's still someone who's going to find a fault for you.
Right.
People will talk either positively or negatively, so you just need to do your thing.
Wow.
Very powerful.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. I love you.
That is profound.
Indeed, it is.
Simple but profound.
Very true.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess that's forms the tempo for the conversation that we have this morning. Working from home. In very many jurisdictions around the world, working from home was a very foreign concept, that you worked at home if you were doing domestic duty, and it was a different kind of work from home. Enter a world phenomenon, and I call it phenomenon and not a disease, COVID, in 2019 towards the end in some parts of the world, and then into 2020, people fast took on the idea of, okay, can we do this thing that we do in an office, actually in our homes, if we have the right technology to do that? And the answer very apparently became yes. There are people who homeschooled their children even before that, but we saw this with such gusto after COVID came and shut down the world for 2 years. So it happened that you could work from your house, you could work from a cafe, you could, you didn't have to be in the office to get something done. And we are now getting to the point where we're saying that, you can still bring in matters of contracting and security for your work, even if you do it at home. Give us an overview of this, if you would, because we introduced a new concept and now we are wrapping essentially the requirements and legislations and standardization around it. How?
All right. So first, I'd like to tell you that in Kenya, people started working from home around 2010. I've been in the space for now 10 years. And working from home at that particular time was not the one maybe you're referring to where you are employed, but because COVID came, now you have to find ways of thinking about how you're going to continue working. Working from home that time was freelance, where we would go to these platforms. There's one that's very famous, and at that time there were two that merged and became one that's known as Upwork.
Yes.
And then there's Fiverr and all these other platforms. But then what we did at that particular time is that you would get to these platforms and then you would find a skill that you feel you're very good at and offer that skill. So it gave you the opportunity to be able to work with people from all over the world. And at that particular time, because that then was very new, there was issues of payment. Because some of the payment methods like PayPal were not aware of the African region. And when they did, okay, maybe they were, but they didn't.
Are they aware now?
Yes, they are. So maybe they were, but I think we hadn't got to a point where fintech is right now. And so in terms of transferring money, there was an issue in terms of transferring money then. And so the space has grown. People have learned different skills, but at that particular time, most Kenyans were offering writing and transcription skills, and then it moved on. So what 2010 did, it actually kind of validated what we were already doing, because at that particular time there was a lot of stigma in terms of what are you doing in the house with your computer. You never leave the house, and because of the time zones, you get to work at night when people are sleeping, and then you sleep in the morning. So there was no social and interaction, and so there was a lot of questions as to what exactly people do online. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're saying that those situations essentially need to be protected.
Yes.
How?
Yeah, because one of the first thing I would like to say is that we need to first define what these jobs are before we can protect them. We need to classify them, because we have location-based platform work and we have cloud-based platform work. What I mean by this is that when you think about location-based platform work, is platform work that is enabled by like an app or by the technology, but then you work offline. An example would be the Uber drivers. Another example would be the riders. An example would be the fundis who are using the platforms. So you get to connect with them on the platform, but they actually come to do the work offline. We have this other section of the cloud-based workers, and those ones now are the freelancers who are working on those platforms like Upwork. We have the micro workers. So the freelancers get to talk to their clients directly. It's just that the platform is enabling them to do this. But the micro workers, they get to a platform like the one that was very famous in Kenya called Remote Task, and you find your tasks there, and you get to do whatever you find there is what you get to do. And then we have the BPO workers, or the business process outsourcing workers, where we have people who outsource work like a third party. They could be location-based or cloud-based, but many of those are actually in Kenya right now. So that is fast. And then, of course, you have the content creators. So when we are talking about protection, it's usually very important to identify and classify where these people are, because as much as we have common challenges, there are some that are very sector-based. And so the protection that comes in when we talk about protection is that it's informal economy. And so, of course, there are no employment benefits, because at this particular point, what the digital platforms have done is that they've pulled out and said, we are not employers. We're just offering a platform to enable you to get work. So we are not going to take the responsibility of an employer. We are not going to pay you, give you employment benefits, your pension and all that. But then at the same time, there are the people who are directly connecting with the workers. And so understanding the challenges and coming together, amplifying that voice, would enable that protection to come in. And also the payment issue. So when you think about the platform work, the challenge is, if you're working from home, there's isolation. If you're working in a BPO and maybe the content that you're using, for example, the content moderators and the data labelers, the ones who are training AI, there's a lot of things that you are being forced to clean up that affects your mental wellness. If you're working for Uber, there's the long working hours. If you're in the BPO sector, they work for about 12 hours. And so I think bringing all that information together is exactly what we want to do as the Union of Gig Workers, so that when we are talking about this and talking about the protection and thinking about the regulation, because the regulation in Kenya really is about the employer-employee relationship, and it was done in 2007. There was no digital, there's no mention of digital. So we need to have evidence, we need to talk about it, advocate for it, so that when the regulation is being done, it's actually ensuring that no one is left behind. Because most of the time when you think about platform work or gig work, your mind goes to Uber. The cloud ones are kind of left behind. But now what we are doing is bringing everyone to the table so we can talk and say one thing in unity.
Is it formal or informal at this point?
The gig work. Gig work is still informal.
It's still informal. So in order to have a formalized way of doing things, then there's certain things that need to come into place. Recognition is first. And if we're looking at the Ministry of Labour, it falls squarely under that. So what would then be the trigger that would then tell the Ministry of Labour to then activate something and say, okay, this is something that we then need to actually look into and start to put regulations in place, standardize it, protect it? If it's informal at the moment, that means it's unrecognized. So what happens? What do you need to do to get to that point, or to get from here to there?
Yeah, so first of all, we shouldn't ignore the gig work as much as it's informal, because when you look around the research that's been done both globally and here, some talk about 2.6 million in gig work. I mean, that's like a whole voting block, if you look at it that way.
2.6 million people in the sector.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you think about it, that's a whole voting block, yeah? So there are people you shouldn't ignore. The second thing is that we are in the digital economy, and government every day is talking about how they want young people to get in the digital economy. They want to create jobs in the digital economy, but then they're bringing investors in terms of the business processing outsourcing organizations just to create jobs. Then you need to ensure that as much as you're bringing investors, you're also taking care of the workers that are fueling this economy. So there's need to actually recognize this, and that is why we said as much as we are pushing for recognition, we also need to take the responsibility of creating awareness and letting, so for example, the Ministry of Labour or the Ministry of Digital Economy understand very well what it means to be a gig worker and where you fall in terms of categorization, so that when they're thinking about recognizing, thinking about bringing in employment benefits, like Europe right now, they have said gig workers are not independent contractors. They are supposed to be employees. And so there has to be a lot of coming together, a lot of research, a lot of evidence, so that you're able to say, look, you can't ignore these people.
You know, the changes are usually very difficult to accommodate because we get comfortable with the way we're used to doing things. COVID, as we keep saying, changed all that. So things which we previously hadn't considered, accepted. And this particular century, because of the fact that it's what we call the communication age, a lot has changed. So this discussion about people who work at home becomes very, very relevant. Has the stigma disappeared completely?
Not yet.
Why?
Yeah, again, because of that understanding of who exactly are gig workers. And there's a perception of, and we see every time, where people are saying online, ni Mungu tu. You know, when you asked what you do, if you get some kind of wealth, it's really, so most of the time, online work is related to scams or, bad things that are happening online. So there's that stigma. And then if you're a young person and you just got into online work and you're not leaving your house and you're able to pay for your bills, people will be curious to understand what it is. And then there's also the perception of parents. You just believe that if your child is a doctor or a lawyer or maybe a journalist, that's what work is. And yet sometimes the ones that have really thrived in this space are doing better or making better money. But just the fact that you cannot understand, what exactly they do, then the stigma
is it that you don't understand or you don't want to understand?
So I think that depends on a personal level, because because as a parent and parents, friends, and everyone else, work. What is work? What are jobs? What have we been taught to think about when you think about jobs? So when someone is in the house and they're telling you that all they're doing is labeling, let me take that as an example. So they have this area where they are helping the autocars to navigate the roads without drivers. So when you get into that room, all you see is a very dark thing on the screen, and they're supposed to label and tell the car. So when you see this is what this is. It's your the person around you might wonder, what exactly are you doing?
Yes. But I want to put this really politely, but you're ignorant. You don't know. See, being ignorant isn't bad. It just means you don't know. because you can do away with it. And that's where the willingness comes in. That's why I asked him, do they or don't they want to learn? Because, and it takes me back to what I said earlier on, the way people resist change. See, this idea of someone working on the computer, okay. I look back at how long it took me to work on a computer. I attended classes to learn, and everybody who was there was like a quarter of my age. And every time I looked at my screen, what was on my screen was very different from theirs. So I befriended the people next to me and asked, so how do I get what you have on your screen on mine? I tried that for something like 2 weeks, and I figured this thing isn't working for me. Why? I am the one who had a problem. Being with young people wasn't my problem. No, my problem was my brain, the cogs weren't moving as fast as I would want them to move. They eventually did.
Yeah.
And why it is different is because I was wondering, why must I go through all this? But the era of someone working for themselves had arrived. I just didn't know it. Okay? Now, imagine if someone works in an environment where all these technological changes that we talk about, as far as they're concerned, certain computers have arrived, and that's just about it. So they work on the computer at their place of work. Now, that change, so that they understand you could do more, means then you need to understand the more that exists.
Yes.
And which you can actually use that same tool with, and that you don't need to be in a space called an office. Do you think that one gets more productivity out of working in a setup that you've described, or in working in an environment like this one where we are, with around 10,000 people around you?
About.
Yeah, I think there are two ways to look at that. But in terms of productivity, yes. Because for the ones who work online, you sometimes are paid by the hour, the literal hour that you're working. So if you tell a client that I'm going to be working for you for 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day, it's very clear. This is a world where deliverables and milestones are taken very seriously. The quality of work, and so you become very productive, because if you don't, then you get to lose a client. These platforms will let the client give feedback. So you don't want to get really bad feedback, because then it affects the next job that you're going to get, because it's out there, it's public. And so, yes, you become productive. In terms of the other thing is isolation. The more you work from home, the more you're not relating with other people. So that social aspect, you would say, if the social aspect, maybe an office is better. But working from home, and I am biased to say this because that's what I do, it kind of gives you an opportunity to have global clients, and so you get to understand different cultures, and it forces you to upskill and learn every other time, because it's a dynamic space that is changing very, very fast. So you need to be relevant. You need to make sure that your skills are relevant and they are in demand. So that would be like the plus of working from home.
Working from home.
Yeah.
All right. This is exactly what we're looking at this hour. And we're talking with Frida Mwangi, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the Kenya Union of Gig Workers, and looking at working from home, contracts versus the rights of workers and security. So let's look at that actually when we come back from this break, in terms of rights of workers who are working in what we're still calling informal sector in Kenya today. So we'll continue with that as we come back. But you know what? There are care packages under Jubilee Health Insurance, and one of those will guarantee that you have the opportunity to access healthcare, whether you are young or older. Let's look at the Cover Bora Medical Cover, which is budget friendly, and it takes care of inpatient and hospitalization covers. It starts from about 6,200 shillings per year for individuals and 12,600 shillings per year for a family of up to 5 individuals, right? So what are we looking at? Affordable inpatient only cover, check, of 250k, 350k or 500k. Inbuilt maternity and last expense benefits. We're also looking at minimal waiting period and no health checkups required. If you do have a condition, they're going to take care of you from the get-go. And we're also saying what we're asking you to do is call 0709 949 000. Send the word health to 40643 or visit the website jubileeinsurance.com.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform. Better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions. Global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions at 20 in Nairobi, 19 and sunny in Nakuru. It's 18 and sunny conditions in Nyeri, while into Eldoret 23 and sunny going to highs of 28. It's 29 and sunny in Mombasa with 29 and sunny conditions into Malindi. Kisumu is sunny at 26, while Kakamega at 25 is sunny. We're looking into a sunny Kampala at 25 and into Dar es Salaam at 29 is sunny conditions through and through, and Johannesburg at 20 is sunny, with Mogadishu at 29 sunny and Addis Ababa sunny at 18. All right, looking into a partly cloudy Lagos at 28 with sunny cloudy conditions at 25 in Kinshasa, 4 degrees and sunny Friday afternoon in Beijing, and it's 11 degrees and cloudy in Paris, 13 degrees and cloudy in London, with -6 and cloudy into New York.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Hasn't been too crazy a morning, and if you're sitting in traffic, how about you grab yourself a cup of Delamere and have an moment, whether it is that you're having the strawberry or vanilla or chocolate chip this morning. It's an moment and taking a break with Delamere. There's little traffic in most parts of the city this morning, but if you're right there at the Pangani underpass, it's going to slow down for you just a little bit. Kangunda Road is busy as you get towards Outer Ring, and we're looking at a tad of traffic as you get through towards Ngong Road and out into the CBD. We're going to keep an eye on this going to the weekend. Let's talk through it. SpiceFM KE on X.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Get into it with Freedom Wangi this morning. We just have to remind you that yes, there are 150,000 people who've benefited from the 2GRG program under the KCB Foundation, and they've been able to link skills that they need with opportunity that comes later. A 6-month training program puts you well on your path to then be able to get into a job, or for you to then be able to start a business. 267 million shillings is the amount of seed money that has been given to a lot of these graduates, and after that they're either able to get a job or they're able to start their own business or do both. And under the 2GRG program, many people have been helped, and you can too. Between the age of 18 and 35, you can plug into this program. Find out more information on www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. Continue our conversation with Freedom Wangi this morning, and we're looking at the informal sector of working from home. Can remote jobs also be classified here as working from home, or are remote jobs formalized? Before we now start getting into the rights of workers who are working from home.
Yeah, so remote jobs are formalized if it's an employer-employee relationship. But if you're using a platform, then that's informal. And so when you think about the platforms that people are using, what they have mostly is not contracts. What they have are service agreements. And these service agreements are very long. So when you join a platform and you register, most of the time people just tick, the same way people tick terms and conditions. And so you get not to really understand, and it's usually on the client side. So it's about their policies, how they require you to behave on that platform. And so what has happened is that because of that, people tend to work, and then you wake up in the morning and you find that the platform has switched off and you cannot access it. So one of the biggest issues in this has been with people who are AI trainers or data labelers, because they are the ones who are not working with a client directly. What they are seeing is just this platform. When you think about the ones that are in the BPOs, they do have contracts, but they usually also asked to sign NDAs. And what this happens sometimes is that you cannot tell or write on your CV the work that you were doing with this organization, meaning that you're not able to bid or look for more work because you're not able to explain what experience that you have and exactly what you were doing. And then it comes to the issue of the skills. If you're working in a BPO or you're working in this micro work platforms, then your work mostly is to label things or train things. What does that mean after 5 years? You don't have a transferable skill.
Right.
So so there needs to be discussions around upskilling, even for the workers themselves and the companies that are giving these workers jobs. Because if after 5 years I'm not able to go out there and say something, then there's no growth there. And this is why these discussions are really important. And that, again, brings up the reason why we do require a union. So previously, people have been on social media.
Yes.
That's where we have been coming together informally, discussing. But you see, that is discussions between the two of you. You have no way of bringing these things out or the challenges. But right now, with the union, we are able to now think about what we have done, especially if you go to our social media pages, there's a form. Because we want people to tell us exactly what their challenges are, what they would want to see in terms of changes in regulation. And the reason why this discussion is very important right now is because this thing about gig work and platform work is not just Kenyan. And so even the International Labour Organization is speaking about it.
Yes.
And this June, there's a conversation around what would be like the bare minimum for every platform worker or platforms in terms of workers' rights and protections. And it's because we've noted that if a company comes to Kenya and they set up here, and then people start complaining about the working conditions, they will easily say, we are giving you work.
What's the problem?
Then, or if you don't want us, we'll just go to another country. Because the other country is less regulated, So, but with the ILO, that convention, yes, and recommendation, which the Kenyan government has already answered questions, and they're actually on the side of the workers. It's a good thing. It's now taking the journey to ensure that this is being implemented, so that we don't have platform workers doing one different thing in another country and a different thing in another country. Think about the content creators. They don't get paid here, but they get paid in other countries, right? You get Kenyan in terms of payment. There's also that disparity. I would be doing the same work, the same skill set, but because I'm from Kenya, someone says, no, this is not the amount that I'm going to pay you. Yeah, so, and we also need to also be able to tell people to read contracts or have, in Kugwa, have like resources. Telling you that if you go to this company, these are the clauses you need to look at. If you go to this company, these are the clauses you need to look at. But at the same time, I know unions sometimes feel old-fashioned, but they are the legal organizations that are able to actually have a discussion with government and employers, right? And even the ILO itself. And so it's important that we are able to bring that information because some of our young people are actually afraid of saying what is happening in their life because they do not want to be fired. They don't want to be kind of, there's already unemployment in this country.
Yes.
And so if you get an opportunity, you want to stick. You want to you don't want to look like you're complaining, but the working conditions are really harsh. And so we also need to come out and say, what did your contract say? And is it aligning to what is happening to you right now?
Yeah.
And if it's not, this is a channel you can bring your complaints, and then we will use that channel to go and negotiate with this organization. So that's very easy in Kenya here. Not easy, but it's applicable here in Kenya. But for the global platforms, we have to bring amplify our voices with the ILO, especially with the convention that's happening in June this year and next year, so that at least there's a consensus in terms of what rights and protections do platform workers require across the globe.
What are talk broadly about them, but what are some of those rights actually that content platform workers should have, especially since we're saying that the platform upon which you're working is not formalized, it's not recognized, and now we're saying push for rights. What are some of those rights that we're saying that you should be able to push for beyond your normal human rights, which we already know everybody should then have access to?
All right, so first of all, I would start with the working hours. Right? Normally, people work for 8 hours.
Yes.
So if you're working for more than 8 hours, and then you're earning your salary is very low, then it's frustrating for anyone because there's no growth there. So I'll give you an example. So you find that someone is working for 12 hours. They're earning about 28,000 Kenya shillings because maybe the organization is based in Kenya. The pay slip, they have to deduct the SHA, the housing and all, and pay.
Yeah.
But then they still go ahead and deduct more, and it's not explained as to what it is. It's not for government, but it's not explained where the money is going. So at the end of the day, you have 19,000, and you are working for 12 hours or more.
Yeah.
That's not right in any way. And this is why sometimes people are talking about these organizations coming into Kenya are actually sweatshops, because that's what they're doing. They're benefiting. They have many clients. The other thing is payment. So you get that these clients are able to get about $12 per hour, but then they pay less than $1 to the Kenyans, and it's okay because we agree that there is overheads
per job.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's overheads and all those things that they can come up with because they are businesses, but then that also need to be checked. You need to pay people well, right? Then in terms of contracts, these contracts are not long-term contracts. There are people who even sign contracts for every 6 months or 3 months or 2 months. That's not a job, right? But it feels like a job.
Wait. Why isn't it a job?
Okay, because at the end it's a job, but it's not a long-term job.
Okay.
Yes, it's not a long-term job. So there's a lot of uncertainty. You won't be able to plan yourself financially. And so those are the areas that we want to look at. And because some of these platforms are foreign, and from the countries they come from, they're not treating people the same way. We we need to also say that there's safety issues. There's this and this that is happening, and you've already showed that you're able to do this in a different country. Why are you not doing it here? Yeah.
Okay. Is there push for recognition in the country at the moment?
Yes.
Towards the Ministry of Labour, we're talking about CS Alfred Mutua and his office. Is there push towards having this conversation? At the very least, having the conversation.
Yes. So there's push for having a conversation, and the conversation has been there. So in terms of bringing in people like the ILO, bringing KOTU, bringing in all these platform unions. So we have the Transport Workers Union that deals with the Uber drivers, we have the Digital Borders Union, we have the Communication Workers Union, and then of course there is KUGO. And all these unions some are with cloud-based workers, others are with location-based workers. So, so we've been having conversations, even bringing in the Ministry of Labour in this conversation, because recognition is going to help give us a category in terms of what benefits are we supposed to have as gig workers, and also at the same time, when you are getting taxed, which category are you in? Because that is also not very clear. Are you an independent contractor? Are you a consultant? Okay. What are you doing?
So if there's no recognition at the moment at that level, how is there recognition for tax? How do they know where you are? Yeah. If you're working at home off any kind of record, you're just working off a platform. Essentially, the question is, then how do they find you to tax you if it's not recognized?
So what the government of Kenya has done is that it has gone ahead to talk to some of these global platforms and ask for tax, and then that is then brought down to the workers that are in these platforms.
Okay.
Right. And so our question is, if we are not categorized, then why?
Tax us?
How can you tax us? So there's the issue of digital tax. There's the issue of maybe you should be given withholding tax. There's the issue of maybe you're an independent contractor. And so if you're going to the tax discussion, let's first recognize this.
Who is supposed to categorize you?
The Ministry of Labor.
Okay. And if they were to categorize you and you fall outside the existing recognitions, then laws would need to change in order to accommodate you.
Yes, they do, because this is also a different type of work. So we can't think about it like the normal type of work that we know. So there needs to be also that innovation.
But given the proliferation of it, it's becoming normal.
Yes.
It was not normal before. Now it is. You see, you mentioned something about working for a month, 2 months, and that being unstable and you can't plan. What if that is the norm? What if you work 2 months, 1 month you're laid off, you work 2 months? Why I'm saying that is, if I look at the casual worker in this country, in the times when you could get casual work, that's exactly how they worked.
Yeah.
There was no guarantee that you'd get work for a whole week. You went to work for 3 days in a week, 2 days. If there's a lot of work, you may work for a week. Somehow you have to live. So it then needs... You need to plan within the circumstances that represent your reality. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, for this to be an even better conversation, let me ask the question. If you're talking numbers, how many Kenyans would you say right now are in that particular field of endeavor?
So, according to the latest research, and I'm using this as because it's the latest one from MasterCard, Kepsa, and Immobilis, they said it was over 2.6 million.
In Kenya?
Yeah.
Over?
Yes.
Okay. So, what should it look like? I mean, going into the place where we're getting to the point where, because of internet connectivity and other emerging technologies and others that are present, the likelihood is that there will be more people who say, well, you know what, then I can actually sit in my house and I can get something done on my computer if I have access. So there will be probably in the next, in the foreseeable future, there will be more people than the 2.6 million getting onto these platforms. So then it just... I hear the calls for regularization. I hear for regulation. I hear the calls for protections already ringing in my ear. So no time like the present, it seems to me, to start to have that conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. And we've been having those conversations. I think even the fact that we have come together now as a union, we've been having those conversations, and those conversations have been there for about 10 years or so, or even before. What happened is that at first, this space was also very hidden because when people found out about working on this platform, it felt like it's a secret society of people who just found this space. But then again, because people were coming in, internet, penetration and all these things, and also the awareness that I could actually offer my skills somewhere else. I don't need to offer them right here in Kenya. Those conversations have been ongoing, and I think for me, I love that it's the 10th year in this space, and it is the 10th year where we are getting to a place where now we are actually now coming out to say, here we are a union, right? So one of the things is that when you think about this economy, most of the young people working don't understand unionization. And so with that understanding, we went ahead and asked for KOTU and also the ILO. And we also recently, I think last week, this week actually, Monday and Tuesday, we had the International Trade Union Confederation, the global one and the African one, where we had 2 days for capacity building. Because we were like, okay, we already know that we have these issues.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure that these issues have evidence. right? Because right at this moment, we say we have over 2.6 million workers. Where is that data? We need to confirm who and what are they doing.
You know, you raised something interesting. How then do we guess it is 2.6 million workers when you don't have the data?
So that's data from MasterCard and KEPSA.
Okay. And how do they, I have to ask, how do they get this data?
So for them, they say that they have included everyone who, even if you've done just 1 hour of gig work, is included there for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah. So they did the research, which has a methodology. They sample people, and then
Okay. I'm asking this question out of ignorance completely. Okay. My question is this. What qualifies as gig work?
Gig work is mostly short-term. Gig work is project-based. Gig work is task-based, right? So you could have more than one client because they are not employers. So you could have more than one client. And one of the things that feels very good about gig work is the perception that there's freedom, there's flexibility. I can choose my clients, I can choose, but it's not that true at the end of the day. For some it is, for some it is not, depending on the work that you're doing and the person that's offering you this work.
You can choose your hours.
Yes, you can choose your hours and all this. But when you think about the realities of it, for anyone who's working in a business processing, outsourcing organization, they are not choosing their hours. Their hours are set. So they will work for more than 12 hours, right? But then their contracts are also project-based. So that is what gig work is. Gig work is short-term, and it's not that it's just begun now. I think even the musicians in the 1940s used to say, call what they were doing as gig.
Yeah. I have a gig. I've got a gig. Yes. Yeah. All right, so what do we hope to see going into the future for this? I mean, it seems like all of these conversations, this is the genesis of the process, but what do we hope to see going forward from now?
A lot of I think a lot of stakeholders discussion, a lot of awareness, especially to the young people that are in the space, so that they understand that as much as you're working, there are things that are, your rights. You don't, because there's a lot of unemployment, then there's no quality work. No one is thinking about quality work when you don't have a job. You just want a job. You just want to earn something and put food, right, on your table. But then we'll talk about the importance of coming together, the importance of upskilling, the importance of ensuring that as much as you might be in the gig work right now, there has to be a career path also in the gig work. Because what is happening right now, what I started with 10 years ago, the work that I was doing online, it has completely been, AI has taken over completely. So finding that someone is still training a young person on the same thing that was taken by AI, I think in 2017 or 2018. So there's also need for that, so that young people are aware. Like I told you, when we came into the space, we only knew about 3 or 4 things, but now there's a lot. So being able to explain that, so that this space is not just, we are not competing on cheap payment, we are also competing on skills, and the quality of skills.
Well, I mean, it's a world that we have to pay attention to, and I'm just glad that you're able to join us for that conversation this morning. Frida Mwangi is the Deputy General Secretary of the Kenya Union of Gig Workers. Thank you for doing that with us this morning. We're going to take a few minutes to look at this developing story that has come up this morning in the announcement that former IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati passed on late last night. He passed on at about 11 o'clock last evening. He was age 64. He was the former IEBC boss. He had been admitted to the intensive care unit and hospital, and what he was ailing from still remains private. He served as the IEBC chair for a full term of 6 years and retired in January 2023. He presided over the 2017 and the 2022 general election, and the last time we saw him active was just after the announcement of President William Ruto as the winner of the election that took place on August 9th, 2022. There had been reports of his illness, of his ailments early on, and his family has confirmed his death after the reports of him being critically ill last week. He had been undergoing treatment for almost a week and unfortunately passed away at about 11 o'clock last night. And yes, indeed, served for 2 terms, and many would remember that in the 2017 election, after that pronouncement, we did go into round 2, did we not?
We did.
Yes. And in 2022, yet another election which many people would have seen as controversial in terms of its results. But Chebukati has unfortunately passed away, and we ask and we pray that his soul will rest in peace. CT?
Indeed. Indeed. There are those who say that, yes, there are 2 things that you're certain of in this life once you're born. And some even narrow it to 1.
Yeah.
Death.
Indeed.
It is the way of the world, and indeed may his soul rest in peace.
So, Frida, thank you for joining us this morning. And we must say that your son, Waiganjo, has been listening to the show, and he says hello to you. And, you know...
And he says, hi, Mom.
He says, hi, Mom. We're not going to ask you how old he is. You know. Yes, but it's been nice having that conversation with you this morning and just taking a segue from those things this morning. What are you doing this weekend? Well, if you didn't go down to the Muthaiga Golf Club yesterday, you have an opportunity to do so today, because the Magical Kenya Open gets into its 2nd day, and all the golf greats are coming together on this part of the tour to have a wonderful weekend in the Magical Kenya Open. Started yesterday and goes well into Sunday. Remember that you have the option of going down to the Magical Kenya Open Village for all kinds of entertainment, all kinds of food, drink, and enjoying as everybody tries to hit that hole in one. Not to forget the good folks on the Playground show from Saturday will be on ground tomorrow. So yes, they will be on ground tomorrow, and you can then get an opportunity to meet your different Spice hosts as they take part in the entertainment around the Magical Kenya Open, and that goes on all the way to Sunday. And as we're getting into the final part of it, remember that Virtual FX for businesses, whether they're small, whether they're medium, or whether they're large, however you want to open it, is that you have an opportunity to make payments across countries, 190 of them, across currencies, 49 of them, and you don't have to worry about extra costs. You don't have to worry about high fees. You don't have to worry about long downtime. You can actually do this and get it done properly. Get all the information that you need on virtofx.com. And Frida, as you go, you're going to take a break at some point today, and we want you to be able to take that break and have an aha moment with Delamere. CT's going to give you the strawberry, and I'm telling you, there are real pieces of strawberry in this strawberry yogurt. So when you take a break from that work at home, or when you take a break from that in that traffic, have an aha moment, an moment with Delamere.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it Kenya's biggest conversation this week. Have a wonderful weekend. We talk again Monday at 6.
Spice up your life